inside of Christian ethics themselves. Just a simple self-ID.
Black Americans do tend to attend religious services more frequently than white Americans. So it's 47% versus 34%. Which is again, so black people go to church more than white people, which means that they're most likely more affiliated
men or women
with religious
communities.
I'm going to look at men or women. So this is just in general. Black women tend to report higher levels of religious commitment than black men, but this is also the same for white women. So across races, women tend to be more religious than men.
So it is the case that inside of the black community, that if we adjust for gender, in this case sex, right? If we adjust for sex, then we see it's mostly black women who are attending like liberation churches, and they're attending non-traditional churches and things like this, because those are the more appealing churches to women. The LGBTQ flag hanging churches are the more appealing ones to Protestant women. The men tend to go to the more traditional churches, creating an even wider divide. So it is the case, actually, that it's black women who are going to these churches more often than the black men. Therefore, again, the idea of traditional patriarchy, gone, right? Whereas if you're talking about Catholics, they go as a family. It's going to be mommy and daddy. Not the case when it comes to the black community. And you pointed out something there that's actually key when it comes to white people. It's the same thing here. You see a disparity in traditional church attendance between white men and white women. White women do go to church more, that's true, but what kinds of churches do they go to? That's the key.
Chevy makes America's most dependable trucks. Because in a Chevy truck, dependability comes standard. Chevrolet, together, let's drive.
Noom's going micro. Micro habits, micro wins, microdosed GLP-1s.
Help!
Oh, hi. What's happening?
I've been here for months and my weight won't budge. I'm stuck.
Been there, but Noom's microdoses of motivation and microdosed GLP-1s can help.
Bye-bye, plateau!
Hello, Micro! Micro changes, big results. Get started at Noom.com. Welcome to the Micro Top. I guess that's why they call him the GOAT.
I'm fairly certain that, because I have this statistic thrown in my face all the time as far as my support of racial justice goes, but are socially conservative attitudes not more common amongst Black Americans than they are amongst white Americans?
Yes. So it is true that especially black men tend to be more traditionally conservative. They tend to be more socially conservative, but only here. Not when it comes to voting and voting patterns.
No,
they
right.
Tend,
but like
they tend to mostly only be
ideas.
socially conservative when it comes to homosexuality and immigration. That's it.
Yes.
Yeah, especially homosexuality. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. It's still not cool to be an undercover brother. Okay? It's still not cool to be an undercover brother. Yeah. But the thing is like, so what? The family dynamic of Black America has been completely eviscerated, and we can easily track this back from progressive ideology into modernity. I'm not taking away any of the arguments of racialism, which came from whites, especially in the early 20th century and even in the mid 20th century.
I mean, do you think it might have something to do with the private prison system again?
No, I think it has to do with the fact that progressives do everything to promote alternative family structures than the idea of mommy, daddy, children, cross-generational or nuclear families. Progressives do everything possible to destroy that unit. And it has been the most detrimental thing to blacks. It is now becoming the most detrimental thing to whites. Just look at this. Just humor me with one thing.
With you, I'm kind of someone that I feel like, I suppose, cultural arguments are less interesting to me.
But they're the most important.
And is looking at where money, you know.
Yeah, but
where is money going to and from? And
yeah,
so
but money, when we look at education, is huge, right?
when we have a country in which the private prison system and labor from private prisons is kind of integral to our economy, like it would make sense that they would want as many people possible locked up, correct? Like would it not follow that we would
I'll even grant it. I'll even grant it.
A specific
Sure.
population, perhaps?
I'll grant the entire thing. It does
Okay.
nothing to negate what I'm saying here. Even if it's the case that prison industries and private prisons who operate on a model of private capital per inmate, right, were influencing politicians for laws which disproportionately affected minorities. I'm willing to even grant that that is the case, and it still doesn't explain this disparity, not even close. And that's my problem. That's the issue. It's like the difference, I think, when I'm talking to you is that I can grant your worldview and it just affirms mine. But if you grant mine, it destroys yours. And that's the problem, right? It's like I'm willing to engage in the
Do you
entirety.
think that economic, like socioeconomic standards can determine culture? Because again, I do feel like this is something that
I think
was
culture determines.
initially external.
I
that
think
was
culture's.
then
I think it's the
became cultural.
opposite. I think it's the opposite. That culture determines the decadence of socioeconomic policy anyway. I think culture is what influences the political process for the things that you're talking about and the injustices in the financial communities, which didn't even used to exist. Even things like usury. Like here, I'll grant you an easy one. Payday loan centers and things like that, super hyper predatory, especially towards blacks, towards Hispanics, and towards minorities in this nation. It's so over the top hyper predatory. I think that those people should be pulled out of those payday loan places, publicly tarred and fucking feathered. That's how bad that is. Okay. Do I think that that sort of decadence can exist though? If you had a culture which was a moral culture, I do not. No, I don't think so.
Do you think that perhaps, so for instance, when my ancestors came to America, they pretty immediately had the opportunity to build up ancestral wealth. Now, a
No,
Black
they came-
American
then they
would
came
not
here with
have had
wealth.
no, they came here poor.
Okay,
But what I
how
mean
did they
is
get
that
here?
versus enslaved individuals.
How did your ancestors get here?
Who is going by boat? Who is going to have a better opportunity to build wealth? Someone who is enslaved or someone who can work?
Yeah, but I'll
money.
even grant this.
Okay, grant me that.
So it could be the case, and is the case likely that the black community, right, had like 50 or 60 or 70 or even 80, maybe even 100 years of recovery from the social distinctions which were made financially between the disparity of them and white people. It still wouldn't account for this. There's plenty of poor countries where the fathers are intact. There's plenty of them, including Hispanic
I don't think
nations.
that we ever got a.
What's the difference between a Northern Tool and Equipment pressure washer and the kind they have at big box stores? Well, what's the difference between wielding industrial strength PSI and just putting your thumb over the end of a garden hose? For more to the point, what's the difference between opening a giant can of whoop-ass and opening a tiny can of half-ass? Think about it. Northern Tool and Equipment. Get serious.
You know, 40 acres and a mule. So what we had after the end of slavery was that
how does that
Black
account for
people
this?
never got their reparations.
Yeah,
and
how
then
does
were
that account
subjected
for this,
to-
though? How does that
to
account for-
segregation? How does this account for that? What I mean
Yeah,
is
how
that
does it
you
account
have
for it?
Okay, if we are granting that crime correlates with poverty and a lack of education, right?
I'm willing to grant all of that, but
Okay,
how does that
okay,
give an
cool.
accounting for in modernity the rampant disassociation and the destruction of the black family when it used to be that they were even poorer than they are now, but the fathers were still there. I need an accounting for that.
I'm gonna need to see like.
I just read you the stats, but you can pull up the graph right now. Just look at fatherless black homes, 1900 to present, and tell me what the stats say yourself.
It's to poverty rates in black.
No, not poverty rates. No. Fatherless black homes, 1900, 2025. And tell me what they are.
It's to...
And while she's looking that up, I'll maybe go 5 more minutes if you guys wanted to, and then we could open the panel up for some further conversation if you want. If you guys want to stay with this, it's your show.
I do have one thing before we get onto.
Can you read me the stat though?
So I will say for poverty, at least, Black people have a record low of poverty
record
rate.
low.
They're record low, which is good. That's good.
That's good, but they're still in the worst fatherless homes in history. So tell me, what was the father rate in the early 1900s to now? Any graph will do. In fact, just do it easy. Fatherless rate, black homes, 1980s to present. Just do that.
Sure. Okay. Fatherless home rates, black families, 20th century. Okay, yes, it was after the 1960s.
Yes, it was after the 1960s. And we have the lowest poverty rate for blacks, like you just said, that we've ever had. So your worldview does not account for this phenomenon. Do you see? Do you see what I'm saying? And do you see why I think progressivism is so poisonous?
There can be economic and external factors that can impact culture.
You mean the economic factors that they're doing better than they've ever done ever in history, and yet still they're at the most
1950s and the 1960s.
Yeah, but they were listen. If they're doing worse financially in the 1950s, but there's still more fathers in the home, how could that account for that?
I think conservative morals of the time.
Yes.
I suppose.
There we go. Yes, I agree. Because of conservative morals at the time, which would be heavily religiously oriented. And what I'm trying to show you is that as the progressives have made the push for secularism, as they've made the push for all lifestyles are equal, the very communities they're trying to protect, you guys have destroyed. You've destroyed them with this. Completely and utterly destroyed them.
I didn't do anything. However, it does seem like fatherlessness by all races and ethnicities has increased.
Agreed. And what else has increased? Secularism? The number one correlate between the idea of the moral prism being completely relative or not.
It was a lot easier to get divorced. I think that also helped.
Yeah, and who pushed that?
Well, women. I think that's
secularist women.
That's a net gain.
How is this a better society? Like, how could you ever think that the society in which you progressives have built is better? Like, this society in which now you can get divorced whenever you want, there's no social duties, no social obligations, has led to complete and total fatherlessness in black homes. It's leading to fatherlessness in white homes. It's leading to like these dire, horrible outcomes. Even though you get your GDP is higher, poverty is lower, but the family unit's destroyed. Like, how did this do any good for us?
I would say as the I grew up in a motherless home, due to divorce, and I would say that was really good. That was a lot better than my family staying together. My parents.
I mean, you're not. The thing is like
not without going too deeply into my family.
Look, it's
history,
anecdotal anyway. It's anecdotal anyway. But here's the thing: the number one rate.
Single father homes do really well, don't they? Actually.
Yes, they do. Do you know why though?
They do. They do great.
Do you know why they do well?
Men can make more money.
No.
And I also think that men are less vulnerable than women.
Confidence is not a mindset; it's an achievement. In the GMC Sierra HD AT4X. Get 5.9% APR on 2025 GMC Sierra heavy-duty models.
Leave basic behind with Floor & Decor's new HydroShield Plus styles. Our waterproof laminate offers the durability you need in the wood look styles you love. Starting at $149, shop in store or visit us online at flooranddecor.com.
Whereas I think women are more likely
It's because
to,
of strange men. It's because single moms bring strange men around and they abuse the kids. That's why.
Yeah, I'm absolutely inclined to agree.
Yeah, so how do you solve that problem?
How do we solve the problem of
How do you solve the
women
problem of
bringing,
single mothers bringing strange men around and abusing their kids? How would you adjust for that? What would be the thing that we could point to that was going on before that solved that problem that we no longer have?
Well, I think that we would have to do something about men's tendency to, rape,
Oh, it's
abuse,
men's
and
fault.
assault.
Oh, it's men's fault.
Well, I mean, like you are capable. I mean, surely you would agree that the majority of perpetrators of like child sexual assault and rape in general are male, correct?
No.
Well, that's true. It's like a 90%.
No, it's not. It's not true. It depends on classification. So when I look into these stats, here's what I see. I see that they will say things like non-penetrative sex is not considered rape, that they say that things which would be considered assault by men are not considered assault by women. I do not agree with this, and I can even give you my proofs, right? Here's some of the great proofs that I have for this. Let's start with this idea of sexual assault, right? Or what is considered the category of the R word, right? Mm-hmm. What is the R word? What would you consider R word to be?
I mean, I don't really differentiate between. I do believe that when people say rape, they typically do mean penetrative assault with either a phallus or some sort of phallic object.
So do you see how it could be that so many women, even though I have stat after stat I can show you, when in college where men have reported that they've been assaulted at much higher rates by women than women by men, they declassify them because it's non-penetrative. Do I still consider that to be the R word? I sure do. Just like you would.
I'm inclined to agree.
So I don't believe that these. I think that the stats by Rain and these things, they're all categorically.
I've also never seen stats like that. I mean,
have you ever looked? Have you ever actually tell me this? Have you ever?
I have actually done a lot of research on.
Where did you look? Where did you look? That was not a progressive think tank. Where did you look? Anywhere that was not a progressive think tank. Yes, I can. I want you to go right now to Honey Badger Radio. And on that Twitter account, I will send you the link as I have it bookmarked. I will show you study after study after study, which shows that they changed the categories of what the R word actually is. When it comes to men versus women for non-penetrative, that's one. Two, the fact of the matter is that men, when they're assaulted, let me give you an easy example. If a man is sitting at a party and a strange woman comes over and starts rubbing his arm or rubbing his shoulders, that's not considered SA, nor do they report it as SA, but women will. There's massive category differences here. And if you were to adjust for the reporting and everything which was considered SA on the opposite side, you would find out that, no, I don't believe that men are these hyper predators. I've always thought that was bullshit feminist talking points based on categorization in order for feminists to play the perpetual victim. Now, let me pull these stats up. Hang on.
As was primarily involved in gay communities throughout my lifetime, and has dated probably an equal amount of men and women. I'm not saying that women cannot be predatory because I have experienced that. However, in terms of the degrees of danger and how likely men are to offend versus women, I will say that it is much more likely for men to offend.
Yeah, I don't believe it.
Men are okay. Do you have a daughter?
Yeah.
Are you more comfortable leaving her with a strange adult man or a strange adult woman?
Generally speaking, I'm not comfortable leaving her with anybody.
Okay, but if you had to choose,
I mean, it would depend. Like if it was my best friend who was a male, I wouldn't give a shit. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
That wouldn't be of concern with me. Now, you said a stranger, right? Generally speaking, I probably would default towards a woman. That's true.
Okay.
But however, even if intuitively I might think
Right.
this or be socially conditioned to this. It doesn't
Mhm.
actually mean that their risk would go up even if I intuitively would do this thing. Do you see how that works?
It is statistically more likely for men to. I mean, I will look at your sources because again, I'm actually a significant. I have been a witness against a female rapist. Victim was male. I have gone to bat for this, and I care about this quite a bit. I do think that male victims of sexual assault, when the perpetrator is female, are not taken seriously, and I don't like that. So this is not me being against that, but I do think it is statistically more likely for men.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's only
violently offend
statistically.
and assault.
Yeah, and I can send you these stats. You can find them. They're posted by Honey Badger Radio. Great source of information, by the way. Goes through all of these. So we can start. This would be ResearchGate.net, publication 33 through publication 37. Actually, yeah, I can send all of these to you. So it turns out.
What's the secret to peak health? Going micro with Noom. Micro habits, micro wins, even microdose GLP-1s.
Micro? I can do micro.
With Noom, we all can!
I'm doing it. I'm going micro.
I can do micro.
It's micro season, baby! Micro changes, big results. Get started at Noom.com. Do not micro poop on my shoulder.
It turns out that when we make adjustments for categorization, this is not at all as cut and dry as it's made to sound, and men are not. And here's the thing. I can actually give you a logical demonstration for this that I think that you would agree with. Do you agree that women generally are much weaker than men and so in a much more vulnerable position towards male aggression than the opposition?
Yeah.
Okay, so then you would agree with me then that men themselves are in a position where women are generally vulnerable in comparison to them.
Yes.
And so that you would agree naturally then that men could assault them because they're in that vulnerable position if they so chose to. And so that's likely the explanation for why that happens, because it's not like women can defend themselves against that, right?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
I would agree.
Yeah, so that makes sense to me. That's a great argument. The problem that I have is like when women are in charge of the infirm or they're in positions of authority, they kill their children. They literally kill their own children. And they also, when they're in charge at like prisons and things like this with inmates, they're far more likely as a percentage to assault them. They're far more likely as a percentage when they're in a position of power to do horrible things to the infirm than men. So when the positions are reversed, in other words, if we make an adjustment for a strength differential, meaning now in comparison to me and you, I'm stronger than you. But in comparison to you and a 9-year-old, you're much stronger. When in the position of then them being the infirm and weaker ones, you guys assault at way higher rates. And I could just point to something easy like abortion. It's that simple. It's like when you're in charge of the people, those who are infirm and the children, and when you're in charge of those types of people, you kill them far more often than men do.
You're referring to abortion?
Yeah. That's right.
Okay. All right. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like you're going to have a hard time convincing most people of this argument that women are far more likely to rape and assault than
That's
men
not
are.
what my argument is. What's my argument? My argument is this, that if you adjust women in the position of them then being the stronger sex, they assault more than men do. And we know this because we have them in the positions of the infirm versus men, and they assault them way more often and kill them way more often, especially than men in the same position. That's right.
Okay, do you have sources for that? Because yes, I'm
yes,
aware
I
that
just
women do
told
make
you
up
what
the
they were.
majority
You could
of-
go to read.
Okay.
I will, and I'll
Could you
send them
post
to you.
in the
Yes.
chat, please, because I would like to see these because
Yeah. So hang on. I'm
think
going
that
to
this
DM
is-
these over to Sarah, and she can put them in the chat for you.
All right.
And you
all
can see
right.
these statistics for yourself. You can read through them right now live if you'd like to.
Sure.
It's not nearly as soon as you start changing around categories, as soon as you start changing the semantics, which you guys hate so much, you start to realize, wait a second, this is not as cut and dry as we thought it was. This 90, you really think that 90% of sexual assaults are done by men? Like, you honestly believe that? Even intuitively, you believe that?
Yes.
Yes, of course.
But that's based on my experiences, again, growing up as a woman.
Here, Sarah, I DM'd this to you, this link. If you can post it in the college, or I'm sorry, in the private chat. These would be multiple publications and multiple sources which give the demonstration, and I mean many, but I can back them up more with even more if you'd like. Because one thing that's interesting about this...
Because I think this is going to be hard for you because essentially all evidence disagrees with you when you look up
it doesn't.
all perpetrators of violence, sexual or not. So this is a Twitter link that we have here.
Which links all of those publications you just asked for. Look at it.
Okay.
Oh, I see. The postings. 51% of college men report being essayed or AR'd since the age of 16, 95% by women.
Over and over and over again, we can see.
I mean, yes, that makes sense that college men are, being sexually assaulted by women more likely, heterosexual college men.
Well, that's really strange. I thought men were these violent perpetrators, and yet suddenly, what is the conditional change? College men are much stronger than college women. Therefore, college women would be in the position of vulnerability, and yet men still aren't assaulting them. That's really weird.
I mean, I think it's most likely by drugging.
Chevy makes America's most dependable trucks. Because in a Chevy truck, dependability comes standard. Chevrolet, together, let's drive.
And non-consensual groping.
So men aren't drugging women? Got it.
No, they are.
No, but the women are drugging them more.
43% of college men and high school youth report being sexually assaulted or raped. What would the statistics be for women comparatively?
It gives you the comparison inside of that study.
Okay, well, let me go look at these.
And then the second you begin to take them all into account, you realize that this is not even me trying to assault you. I just want you, or insult you. I just want you to understand something that's very important here, right?
But
almost
just
everything that you believe from RAIN and these various groups is complete 100% semantic propaganda, which is perpetuated by a feminist worldview of classification. They use classification as a weapon. It's really easy. If I only describe rape as being something a man can do to a woman, then 100% of rape is done by men, isn't it?
Do you think
that's the problem with classifications like
that
this.
Feminists created those definitions, or do you think that was
100% feminists in academia created it? Remember, who is in charge of the social sciences? Women. Who has all the degrees in social sciences? Women. Who comes up with the categorizations?
That's a legal definition.
Who comes up with the categorizations which inform the legal status of things? It's those people in academia. When you're talking about trans advocacy, they start, when they move into law, by sourcing psychologists, sociologists, and things like this in order to make the matter a matter of law. It's the same exact thing with rape. It's the same exact thing with all social phenomenons. Female academics come up with the categorizations, and we're supposed to just be like, well, okay then. Don't you think that that's really biased and like fucking horrible to do to men?
It's my understanding that historically, largely, the legal definition of rape came from a time before feminist movements, typically, because it would indicate that the property of a man, either his daughter or his wife, has been.
Nope. That's historically inept. If this was the case, that it didn't come from feminists, then let me just ask you a simple question. Mm-hmm. If a man wakes his wife up with his penis, okay, and she's dead asleep, is he raping her?
I mean, I think that if they had not had a discussion,
No, they didn't have a
about
discussion.
what
It's
the
their
what
wedding
the
night.
consents,
It's their
that
wedding
she is
night.
dead asleep and he
He
like,
wakes
puts
her
his
up with that
with her?
penis. He wakes her up with that penis. That's what he does.
I mean, yeah, I would consider that sexual assault, and same with
And
the
do you
woman.
understand that that is a categorization and classification for rape that's brand new? Do you understand that?
Yes, marital rape is new.
Yeah,
Yes,
the way
I'm
that
aware
you,
that is
the
the
way that you
1970s,
categorize. So,
this
but do you,
is because
yeah, but do you now understand how important it is for these categories to be there? Like, I don't consider that rape. That's insane. If my wife wakes me up with a blowjob, I don't fuck. It's not a fucking rape. Come on, how's that rape? Oh my God!
I mean, have you guys
No,
decided
stop!
that's okay?
I don't think we've ever had that discussion. Why would we ever need to have that discussion? She's
All right, well, if there's
she's
sort of a
my
vague
property.
blanket- if there's
She
a sort of
is owned
vague
by me.
blanket
Well,
consent there, I think that's fine.
How
but
do
I
you know
think
it's blanket
marital
consent if we've never
is-
had the we never had
Can
the
I
discussion?
ask if presuming the wake up scenario, right?
Uh-huh.
If you wake your wife up with full on ready to go and you just start sticking it in and going for it, and then if she says no, right? Like then obviously, right, the consent is immediately removed.
No, not
right?
always. Like here, I'll give you an example. It's the Bill Burr example, right? Oh, stop it. You're so bad. Knock it off. Oh, God. Stop. Ah. When they don't really mean stop. And see, you see how she has this look on her face like I'm speaking in a foreign fucking language as though she doesn't actually understand what I'm saying. When she does. She totally understands what I'm saying. And so does everybody else who's listening to me. Sex is a little bit mischievous, and sex is a little bit dynamic, and sex isn't always so cut and dry as like, do you see this piece of paper right here under line 3? This means you can give me a blowjob between the hours of 3 a.m. and 4 a.m., and that's it. And if you don't sign right here, my consent will be revoked. That is not how interpersonal sexual dynamics work. And
so
what
I
always
am
happens, hang on, let me finish,
aware.
lady,
I am
let me finish.
quite aware of
What
how
always
sex
happens with these people is they give you the big eyes like they're stunned. You just said something stunning, Andrew. How could you say that when they totally fucking agree with you? Totally agree. Like she knows sex is not so cut and dry as just no, because that can mean all kinds of shit. Depends on inflection. It depends on the intersexual dynamics. And you know what that is? That big look? That's called cope. It's the cope of the eyes, right? It's cope, pure cope.
Your favorite neighborhood businesses run on Square. From family-owned shops to multi-location restaurants, Square powers businesses that help neighborhoods everywhere thrive. Learn more at square.com or just visit your favorite local spot. See you in the neighborhood. Square.
Just saying.
I think that you're kind of misrepresenting what marital rape laws are about. I don't think it's a playful blowjob from your wife. I think it's like the brutal rape of someone.
Oh, I think it's not. If we look at your categorizations, not only is it not that, but here's the biggest problem. The biggest problem is you can say in a court transcript, I said no. And the guy says, yeah, she did say no, but that's not what she meant. And we have no context for that because sex is a little bit mischievous. And it's a little bit interpersonal, and it really depends on the person's interpersonal dynamics and what that means. Like, for instance, sometimes I like to go by my wife and give her a big, hard, open palm slap on the rear. And she's like, don't do that. She obviously wants me to not do it. I'm definitely going to do it again. And it's her distress that makes it so much fun to do, right? That's part of the, like, mischievous nature of the thing, right? Is that consent? Is she retracting consent? Well, I guess she is. But does that really matter ultimately? Is that really what's going on there? It's not so cut and dry as you feminists make it out to be, and we all know that that's the case. And so what's so bothersome about it is like, you go, no, I think that marital rape is like the brutal penetration of your wife while she's screaming in agony. It's like, that's not what they report, though. What they report is like, one time I said no, and he went ahead and did it anyway, and we have no context for the interpersonal dynamic, and that's why categorization matters.
That is if you say no when someone keeps going, that is kind of that would be considered rape. I think.
Oh,
that's
okay. Well, I mean,
bit
it's happened to me
different
multiple
from-
times then with my own wife, where she's
Okay,
like,
but are you
she's a
guys
little
being-
randy at night, and I'm like, no, I don't really want to. No, honey, no, I don't really want to. Nah. Oh, okay. Well, actually, okay, that feels pretty good. Okay, we're gonna do this then.
So I think
so
that
you see what I'm saying?
What I mean when I'm talking
No,
about
I
the
don't know
difference
what you
between,
mean.
like implicit consent and
Yeah, I don't know what you
playfulness
mean because it's
versus,
not
like,
that cut and
actual
dry.
Real life, like
Is that playfulness? I meant it. Like I meant it. I really didn't want to right then. And then, well, she talked me into it, okay, through touching that at that right at that exact moment, I did not want. But after the touching occurred, I realized, actually, I do want this, and this is great.
Hey man, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if I'm super into the idea of helping you determine whether you or your wife are raping each other or not.
That's not the point. The point isn't
I'm
whether.
I'm not like super into hearing about
Do you
your guys' sex
understand?
life
Do
and
you
if you're,
understand
like,
the point of
diddling each other. Like,
categorization?
this is, like,
It's
kind
just
of
an
like a lot,
obfuscation.
man.
You're just obfuscating. You're just obfuscating, man. Like my point is to show you that just based on normal human sexual dynamics, women like you will categorize things as rape that aren't. That's my point. Not whether or not Chuck over here thinks I'm raping my wife or she's raping me. It's to give you an easy contrast of normal human interactions and sexual dynamics that you can easily construe as being rape that aren't.
Assumptions. You are making some assumptions about me right now that, you
just said it.
If someone tickles me and I go, hee, stop, do I think I am being... If a friend or a boyfriend or a girlfriend, whoever tickles me and I go, hee, stop, and they don't, do I think I am being assaulted or raped?
Maybe
No,
not.
obviously,
But how
I
does that
do
read out on a
understand
court transcript?
Consent. I mean, man, I don't know. I have never tried to take anyone to court for, tickling and giggling and silly stuff. And I'm
but
not
you
gonna lie,
can
man,
you engage
I
with the
do
hypothetical?
not know how we got here from you saying
Because
that
I'm
like
trying
women
to
are
express-
mega rapists. Like,
Yeah,
holy
that's
mother
not
of
what
God.
that's not
Like,
what happened. Like all you're doing is trolling now because you have no answer to this. Human sexuality is complex, and it's not so simple as you guys make it out to be. And when you make these kind of
I don't
crazy
make it out to be
ass,
that, man. But I think when we talk about marital
yes,
rape,
man,
I think
you
we
do.
know we are.
No, I
what
don't
we're
think we do
talking
know because categorizations matter. And if ever one time a woman has said no to her husband, right, and he admits that in court, yeah, she said no, but that's not a big deal. Like there's a whole interpersonal thing you don't understand here. They don't give a shit because they're going off of these categorizations. That's the point. And that's why it's so important. And you just go, I don't know, man. Like, I don't want to talk about your sex life stuff, though, dude. It's like, no, I'm using it
Can
to
you
draw an
cite
example
examples
parallel.
of a playful disagreement that
Hundreds.
ended in a marital rape
Hundreds
case?
of them. In
All
fact,
right. Well,
hundreds.
I would have to see that.
Yeah, I know you,
I'm
but
not gonna
you've done a
lie,
lot
I
of in-depth
wanna-
research, haven't you? I've done tons of in-depth research, but
Yeah, and
I've never heard of a
never
case like
seen
that.
Anything like no, I've seen false rape charges. Absolutely, I've seen those made, but I have never seen like lady playfully said he stop, and then guy was convicted of marital rape.
How would you know though? How would you know that that was the case? If it is the case, the categorization in court is that she said no, you admitted to, she said no, he didn't stop, even though that was against what their normal sexual dynamic is. And the court's like, well, now you're convicted. You could just point to it and say, no, he's a convicted rapist. He was convicted in the court of law. Even if the categorization makes no sense in this context, that's why it's so important. That's why. And you guys like this is why every time I talk to you guys about this stuff, somehow when we get to this point, there's like a complete shutdown on the other side. It's like all logic and reason and interpersonal dynamics goes out the window because you just want to be devoted to this stat that men are monsters, and we're just not.
I think that you are just making... I don't think that men are monsters by and large.
I think that if it is the case that they're responsible for 90% of the rapes, how could you say that it's not monstrous? Like, that's the push.
Do you think every man is a rapist? I don't think so. I think most people do not commit rape.
Let me ask you this, okay? Do you think that you can have a form of rhetoric, right, where you are very evasive on the form of rhetoric, where it can construe all men as being a bad thing, even though you don't necessarily say that, but you're definitely making a subtle and brutal implication that no, men are basically only responsible for this problem, not the opposite sex. And then when somebody challenges you on it, and I showed you evidence, by the way, significant evidence you can go through, and I'll give you even more if you want. The categorizations of these things are what matter the most, because otherwise we can't really get to the heart of what the R word even means. You say it's just, it's aggressive penetration, and that's what it requires, and it's like, but that's not what the law says.
Well, the first one that I opened said all the majority of adult sexual crimes are committed by men against women. Again, are committed by men against women. Other forms of sexual
that's starting
assault,
with
such
a
as those
presupposition
perpetrated against men, are often ignored. It is estimated.
Yes.
This is trying to raise awareness for an equally horrific occurrence.
Do you
which
understand
is the sexual assault
why
of men.
those are in congruence
Man,
with each other?
I have actually, again, I am someone who has, made an attempt to get a female rapist in trouble because she sexually assaulted a man.
That has nothing to do with this
I have
point.
done this before, man. Like, I am someone who cares a lot about
That has
this.
nothing at all to do with the point. Even if you had locked up all of the female rapists who have ever existed on planet Earth, it would not in any way contend with this point. That it's the categorization of what you consider these things to be in complete ignorance to normal human sexual dynamic, which allows for these stats to show these things in the first place. That's the point that I wish you would contend with.
I don't think that most of these things are talking about normal human sexual dynamics because, again, I am
Based on
sympathetic
what?
to that point.
What are you basing
as well.
that on?
I'm not. You are making assumptions about me as a person that I am like someone that is
You
like
just said it though. So what are you
very
basing it on?
anxious and needs like a sexual contract before I can engage in intercourse. Or
That's
I think
not what I'm
someone
saying.
is gonna
I just
be
am
raped.
asking you, what are
but
you
are
basing
making
these things
assumptions
on?
about me.
I'm.
What am I
You
basing
literally
things
just
upon?
said,
The
I
literature,
don't
man.
think X. What are you basing that on?
I mean, essentially, all sexual assault research out there does point to the fact that men are more likely to be perpetrators.
But it doesn't. It's all context specific, and it's all dependent on how you make these classifications. Like, look, I'll even demonstrate it for you easier. Okay. Do you agree that there's a massive deviation in how men and women perceive murder, like, or even men and men? If it's the case, for instance, that somebody's stealing my TV, but they don't look like they're violent, right? And I shoot them, would you classify me as a murderer?
Yeah, I think murder's pretty cut and dry. Yeah, you killed someone.
So I'm a murderer.
Yeah, if you kill someone, you're a murderer,
So then
right?
I wouldn't. No, I don't think so. So I would classify
Okay.
murder as the unjustified killing of someone. That would be a murder, but killing would be a different category. So if it were the case that we went with your view, homicides could like quadruple overnight, right?
Okay, do
but
you
if
mean
you
by,
went with
like,
my
legal definitions?
by any definition, homicide would quadruple overnight by this classification. So if that, whether legal or not, if that's your classification, that's your classification. So if it was the same thing with me and you went with my classification, homicides would reduce overnight. Do you see why that's such an important distinction, that you think I would be a murderer if I just killed someone, but I don't think you're a murderer if you kill someone? That's why it's so important that we have these categories right, so that otherwise I could easily say that many, many, many more people are murderers than actually are.
I mean, this is, presupposing that women are responsible for rape laws, which I think is, again, the earliest laws against rape were made by men. And I think your biggest opponents to, differentiating between...
Chevy makes America's most dependable trucks. Because in a Chevy truck, dependability comes standard. Chevrolet, together, let's drive.
Whether or not men are capable of being raped by women. Frankly, this is anecdotal, but my experience is that men are the most resistant to the idea that they are capable of being sexually assaulted by women.
Okay, so all of that, what you just said, is not historically accurate. When you think about even domestic violence laws, those were pushed by women's advocacy groups to give special classifications to women when the law already had laws about assault, including assault in marriages. But somehow women pushed for additional DV laws, which they thought would be somehow favorable to them when it came to domestic violence, with the supposition that men, of course, were the perpetrators of most domestic violence. Well, guess what happened? What happened is now we have the stats, don't we? And it turns out that it's not so lopsided in domestic violence as we once thought. Now that we have all the stats and recordings, it turns out that women also commit an awful lot of domestic violence, especially with other women. Again, when they're in a position where they're in authority and can harm people around them who are weaker than them, they seem more likely to do it than men do.
I do, yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you on that. However, as far as that statistic goes, I do believe that was a survey on if people based on their sexuality had experienced domestic violence at all.
I'm not talking about lesbians. I'm just talking about female roommates.
If female roommates fight each other?
Oh, yeah. Happens all the time.
I thought we were talking about marriage and relationships.
But inside of marriage, it's the same thing, right? But you can have domestic violence calls for mom and daughter. You can have domestic violence calls for all sorts of things.
Right. So who is more likely to kill a man?
What do you mean?
Like, is a man or a woman more likely to kill a man?
Well, sorry.
Right,
women.
a man.
Women are more likely to kill men.
Really?
Yeah, they do it in the womb.
Oh.
Okay.
So women,
if you're a woman,
the
person most likely to kill you if you are a woman is the man closest
is your mother.
to you in your
No,
life.
it's your mother. The person who's most likely to kill you if you're a man is your mother. And they do it when you can't even fight back.
I can't honor this. I'm so sorry. I did have a question based on meta ethics, however. Based on our because I think we got to move on from abortion and rape right now.
Okay.
Out of curiosity, we talked a lot about whether or not morality is subjective, and I did actually read a fairly interesting article that I can share with you on it. But I did want to ask before we get into that. You believe that your Christian ethics are universal, but I wanted to, I guess, know how you determine.
That's incorrect. They're plural. They're pluralistic.
Okay.
Universal. Okay, so we're gonna get into some heady philosophy shit here if you want to. But
yeah, that's acceptable. I'm interested.
Yeah. So when you're talking about universal claims, right? You can have universal claims which are pluralistic, meaning there could be multiple ways to get to the claim. So, for instance, honor thy mother and father. Do you agree with me that you're going to do that differently in Japan than you are in the United States, like taking your shoes off to walk in?
Yes.
Okay, but is that still a universal claim?
Honor thy mother and father?
Yeah.
Do you think that that's a universal claim right here that we could make in the U.S.?
No, just is that a universal claim? Philosophically, is it a universal claim you should honor your father and mother?
No.
Okay, well then I don't even know how to proceed with the conversation then. So at that point, you're just denying what a universal claim is. And
do you mean are you just saying that this is like your prescriptive, like this is what you think people ought to do?
I'm just asking you about universal claims, not about. So if you say
like everyone ought to, and everyone should, and everyone.
Well, no, that's not what a universal claim is. What you're talking about there, ought is normative. That's a normative claim. So normative ethics, that's ought, should, things like that. That's normative, right?
Okay.
A universal claim would not be a normative claim. So this one I'm saying is like, I'm not trying to be mean. Okay, I'm just saying that in order to even have the conversation, you have to come at least equipped with the basics. Or I feel like you're not even actually going to understand what I'm saying, but I'm willing to humor it if you want to do it.
Okay, that's fine. So I guess, but last time you did say that your morality was based on universal Christian ethics. So I suppose I was.
Risk is unavoidable. However, when the future of your herd is on the line, the right prevention is worth everything. trust a vaccine.
Curious about that in the sense, how do you determine what a universal Christian ethics is? Because if we look at it historically, obviously there are different Christian denominations that interpret
Totally agree.
the Bible differently, and
Yep.
the Bible is a translation of a translation of a translation.
Agreed.
So, and it's also, it is up to you as an individual, if you are, seeking a religion, to determine which religion you follow.
Yep.
How could it be considered universal then, I suppose?
Yeah. So, do you agree with me that not all universal claims or any claim is going to be equal to another claim? Meaning some are going to have stronger evidences for them philosophically. Some of it, right? You agree with that, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Have you ever heard of a term called the impossibility to the contrary?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so the term would just mean that we can rule, if we rule everything else out except this thing's probably true, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you can do the same thing when it comes to Christian ethics. You can rule out all forms of Christian ethics, which would not fit within the paradigm of Christian ethics, to show that they cannot be true based on some philosophical problem, which is within that ethical framework that ends up being either a contradiction or in some way doesn't logically follow, to end up with the impossibility to the contrary, meaning that can't be true. And so what are we left with? If we reduce all of these worldviews down, we have to reduce them down to the one that is true, the one that doesn't contradict. So in orthodoxy, we would have an ecclesiology, ecclesiastical authority and tradition, which would go from the teachings of Jesus Christ on, so we know exactly the right way to teach. We can reduce the contradictions from other denominations so that we can prove that those would be false within the paradigm of Christianity.
Okay. But surely there are also going to be disagreements about what is. Like, I'm assuming that, like,
our
Orthodox
ecclesiology
theology,
and our ecclesiology accounts
yeah.
for that, yes. So our ecclesiology allows for disagreements within the preponderance of Christian ethics, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. When it comes to the core tenets, there would be something wrong with that, though. And what happens if you have multiple denominations which move away from core tenets? When they're making universal claims, we can make falsifications of those claims. But let me give you one even better. Not only that, but let's assume, let's just assume this. Let's assume I'm fucking wrong, 100% wrong. Christian ethics is total bullshit. I believe in a sky daddy. I'm fucking mentally ill. I'm a whack job, right?
I wouldn't say that. But...
Yeah, but let's just assume it.
Okay.
For the sake of the argument. Okay. From your paradigm, you couldn't actually tell me why that was problematic, except you just felt like it was. And so the kind of distinction here that we're making with subjective versus objective claims, right? I can concede my entire worldview to you as being false, and I would still, if I made a claim like Andrew Wilson should be the king of America and put every homosexual to the sword, let's just say that was the claim, let's say. You have nothing within your paradigm to say that that was morally incorrect other than because you felt like it was. So even if it was the case that you negated my entire worldview and ideology, ultimately, who gives a shit? Because your worldview reduces to the man with the might wins, and that's it. And there's not a damn thing that your worldview can do to rebut that, rebuff it, or say a word about it, because ultimately it's going to be the man with the sword who makes the rules in your paradigm. Even if I'm wrong, it still wouldn't matter. So you better hope I'm right. You better hope I'm right, because that's what keeps civilization at bay.
Well, I think that that's just, descriptive. I mean, there's certainly periods in time in which atrocities were deemed moral by many people, Christians
Agreed.
included, like during slavery. I mean, that was justified by many people for many reasons.
Yes.
However, that doesn't mean it makes it
But why were
right.
any of them wrong, though?
So based on the reading that I did, and I can share this article with you because it was
Sure.
incredibly interesting. It's a long one, so it's gonna
Just give me the bullet
49
points.
pages.
Why do you think it's wrong? Why do you think it would be wrong for those people to have committed a genocide, or even do you even think it's wrong?
I mean, I do think it's wrong, but this is, the article is It is called The Difference Between Ice Cream and Nazis, Moral Externalization and the Evolution of Human Cooperation by Kyle P. Stanford, published in the Journal of Behavioral and Brain Sciences in 2018. Essentially what it gets down to is that compared to other intelligent mammals, human beings exhibit a lot of automatic cooperative tendencies. And so Stanford argues, evidently this is the source of morality, where morality comes from. Why, as human beings, do we tend to develop such a strong sense of disgust towards people who do things, who have different moral standards to us? There must be some reason for it.
Okay.
Essentially, that human beings. Let me find the exact quote. There was one that I wanted to find here.
Well, take your time here. I'm willing to listen.
Yeah, no problem. Let me see. So Stanford says, externalizing moral motivation was itself favored in ancestral environments precisely because it allowed pro-social, altruistic, and or cooperative agents to more quickly, efficiently, and effectively correlate their interactions and thereby take better advantage of the adaptive possibilities constituting our transition to a vastly more cooperative form of social life. So
Okay.
again, my feelings is that this tendency, which we can observe in human infants, which we cannot observe in like chimpanzee or bonobo infants, this tendency to share even when it doesn't benefit us, to want to work together. This was a trait that survived because it is the most advantageous.
Okay.
It is better for us as a species to have this trait, this ability to empathize with each other and to develop a sense of morality, to see things that are generally based upon, harm being done to others and to disagree with it. That is, I guess, the paradigm that I'm working with. That is my moral framework.
I actually totally understand.
Okay.
So to kind of steel man this so that I understand your position here.
Okay.
It is the case that evolutionarily a trait carried over into human beings, modern humans, perhaps from Neanderthals or Homo erectus or something like this, which caused cooperation. And this cooperation creates a standard for humanity that seems to be better for humans. Is that essentially the position? Got it.
Correct.
Let's say we took that trait away. So that trait of cooperation is now gone, and we just mercilessly kill each other for fun. We're still thriving as a species, right? But we often just like kill the weak. We just kill them. Hang on. Let me ask the question first.
Okay.
We just kill them for fun, because there's no real reason that I can think of, even if we're supposed to cooperate, for things like eugenics and stuff like this to not be implemented. Because after all, like, let's take the Nazi T program, for instance. They went through and they killed all the mentally ill people, and they killed everybody who was an undesirable. Their society seemed to thrive from that. Why were they wrong?
Do you believe German society was thriving from the elimination of disabled individuals?
Well, I think that they would make the case that it was. Why were they wrong?
Oh, certainly. They would absolutely. I would say that I think that it is profoundly antisocial, because the thing about specifically disability,
but who cares if it's antisocial?
Is that disability
this trait's gone now. The trait of cooperation is gone, and all the infirm people, we just put them to the sword. that's a trait that now carries over from evolution. If you're infirm, you just get put to the sword because it makes life easier for everybody else. Why would they be wrong? What would they be actually doing wrong if it's genetically inside of them as a carryover from evolution to do this thing?
I would say that based off of Stanford's article and my thoughts on it, specifically, we have a tendency to select who we want to be around, and it is people that share our morality and moral compass. Now, I would say that a society that does away with disabled individuals, while in the short term it may maybe save them money of some kind, the thing about disability is that it is inevitable for all of us. If you successfully make it to
Just show
old
me.
age,
Yeah, so it's Logan's Run, past 40, done. The society's thriving. They got future cars. They got all the shit that they had in Logan's Run. But you've probably never seen Logan's Run. I'll give you the plot synopsis very quickly, right? You hit X age.
If you've been injured, call attorney John Foyne Associates today, proud partner of the Atlanta Braves. Here at John Foyne Associates, we're always looking to add top talent to our team. Tell me something about yourself. You're a team player. Good.
And they just take you out, okay? It's ultimate form of eugenics. They had flying spaceships and flying cars and shit like that, and they just whacked everybody who reached a certain age, right? They didn't like them anymore. They're done. But their society seemed to be thriving.
I would argue that I don't think that a society would thrive. I think especially if you look at the evidence for, I mean, specifically the strides in science, I would say that people make after a certain age. I mean, it could take decades for people to come to the conclusions that they will get to. I generally believe that I value
I'll grant that.
the wisdom of the elderly. You know,
Hey,
I don't
I'll
think that
grant
we
that.
get that far.
I'll grant
you know?
that. So society can't thrive without the elderly being there to guide the young, right?
And to take care of, you know, the
But if there's
grandkids and
certain
whatnot.
traits that we were able to identify, like that made a person more prone to homicide or alcoholism and things like this, and we were able to detect those things before they were ever even born, and you could just go ahead and abort that child because they were undesirable and now would not have those traits, why would that be a problem?
Well, I also think that that would be dangerous because we do not know when a trait is going to be advantageous. I
Yeah,
think
but you
it's
never
a
have
little
to
bit,
deal with it.
It's
You
a
just
little bit
never
like
have to
playing
deal
God.
with it.
I think.
Well,
that
wait,
there
why
are
is playing
certain
God? But
areas-
why is playing God problematic? If the idea is through a form of cooperation in our trait, right? We cooperate together. When we're cooperating together to get rid of all forms of humanity which cause us to not thrive. Alcoholics, that's a thing of the past. It's gone. It's a genetic thing that we got rid of. Huntington's disease, gone. We got rid of it. All of these kind of like core things we don't like, we got rid of them. And now
So
we just
there
never
are-
have to deal with them again. Why would that be bad?
I mean, it's my understanding, now I'm not a geneticist, but it is my understanding that, for instance, like many East Asian people have a gene that makes their sweat essentially not smell as bad as ours, which also correlates with, you know, dry earwax, having dry earwax.
Okay.
Now, I think that it would be incredibly tricky if we could effectively, truly not essentially fuck ourselves genetically and evolutionarily.
Yeah, let's just
to
say that we had the
start,
ability through technology to see traits that we considered less than desirable in humanity and could select out for those through abortion in day one. And you could just go ahead and get pregnant again the next day, in fact, right? But we could just edit those traits out, right, by aborting those children and have kind of like a super race of genetically enhanced people who basically like why is that bad? How would that affect society negatively?
I don't think that we can anticipate when a specific gene or trait is going to be useful or useless.
But
I think
you're not
it is
actually
incredibly
responding. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I have to cut in, but you're not
I do
responding to the
think
actual
that would
question.
be bad. That would be bad because again, I do not think that you could determine when those traits may or may not
You
become
never have to
desirable.
deal with those traits because they're gone.
But there could come a point in time in which those traits are desirable.
That alcoholism is desirable?
I mean, shit, I don't know.
You don't know if you... Wait, so to get this right, in the spirit of cooperation, if we were to genetically go through and cull out all undesirable traits in humanity, like alcoholism that people have a genetic predisposition towards, and many, many, many other things, like let's say, for instance, that we as a society determined that through cooperation that alcoholism was a big problem and we could just edit that out by simply aborting everybody had that gene till that gene no longer existed day one, where you don't even consider it to be murder. Why would that be bad?
Again, I don't think that you could meaningfully and seriously determine that that is going to benefit society.
Well,
but
wait.
You couldn't.
Okay, wait a second. I'm sorry. So then how do we make a determination about what benefits society? How do we determine that?
How do we determine what benefits society? Oh, it would depend from society to society. But again, if we're talking about calling genes, I do think that there are traits that are in some scenarios desirable while in others undesirable.
So then if you socially determine that this trait is undesirable for your society, how in the world could you construe that as being bad?
Well, I wouldn't want to get rid of someone just because I think that they have a trait.
You're not getting rid of someone.
Like
you don't consider abortion murder, right?
I do think that selectively aborting children on their... Also, genes are not always expressed. So alcoholism runs in my family. That would mean that my family would have to stop, like, you know.
Airwick's cordless essential mist diffuser's perfectly portable fragrance is great for inviting friends too. It has a range of quick change scents for game day to paint night, so you can make every occasion to come over fragrant and inviting. Airwick, always fragrant, always inviting.
Adventure deepens friendships, overcoming these heights together. Sharing this new straight bourbon whiskey from Tin Cup. Rocky Mountain water in every sip. Create memories as tall as mountains. Tin Cup Bourbon, your partner in adventure.
No, if you were able to identify the gene, no, they wouldn't have to stop reproducing. If you could identify the gene, right, then you could simply abort that baby until you got to a baby that did not have that gene.
Well, it's also, I mean, like, the way that our genes are expressed, too, is also environmentally determined in the sense that, like, some genes can be, like, again, based on your environment, can activate or not activate. So
They can't activate if they're not there.
I mean, like, again, you would have to get rid of, like entire families and family lines.
You wouldn't have to get rid of anybody. You would simply abort children day one that had X gene in them, and then you never have to deal with the trait again.
Well, you would have to get rid of a whole lot of people if you wanted to get rid of
they're
the
not people,
alcoholism
though.
gene.
They're not people. What do you mean? They're just a fetus. They're like tissue or whatever, right?
I think that would be eugenics.
And what's wrong with it? But what would be you haven't actually told me how it would be that if I could identify the gene for alcoholism, and we as a society determined to abort all children who have the gene for alcoholism, how that would make for a worse society. You say, well, genes can manifest themselves based on environment. I agree, unless we get rid of that gene. Then it can't ever manifest itself based on the environment, right? So I don't understand how society worse if we selectively edited out the gene for alcoholism through abortion. How would that make society worse?
Because again, I think that that is a specifically alcoholism. Again, I would say that again, we cannot determine what genes or genetic expressions will be advantageous.
If we could.
Depending. I don't think we can know the future.
I'm sorry.
Andrew, I don't think
Okay, you're right. You're right. I'm sorry. I thought you were saying something else. You're right. I shouldn't have cut in, so I'll just ask this instead. Okay?
Okay.
You're right. We can't determine the future. Tell me how society becomes advantageous at any point ever by it having an alcoholic gene.
I mean, I think that addictive personalities can do fairly well in specific fields. Like you brought up, people with more homicidal tendencies. I think that there are job fields that are, uh, a bit more open to people with those sorts of proclivities. For instance, like sociopathy. Like I think that I don't know, hiring CEOs do better with some sociopathic traits. Also, so I have attention deficit hyperactive disorder, and our kind tends to trend towards addiction, um, adrenaline seeking, sensation seeking. However, people with these same tendencies tend to do well in high stress scenarios and situations, such as in medicine or in field work of some kind. So again, I think that if you try to prune a population for undesirable genes, I think that you are going to, in the long run, fuck your, ability to grow together or advance in any meaningful way.
I totally understand. I just got to ask you this. Huntington's disease is an inherited progressive brain disorder caused by a faulty gene.
Okay.
It's not contagious, but if one parent carries the faulty gene, each child has a 50% chance of inheriting it. Now, you see, the way that the medical establishment has combated Huntington's disease is by telling women who have that gene to not have children, and if they do, to abort it. Are they wrong?
I think that forcing someone to have an abortion,
not forcing them,
forcing, but
they're
advising,
not forcing them. Yeah,
advising. I mean, I think it is better to.
Would you advise them to have an abortion if there's a 50% chance their kid would have this horrible neurological disease that fucking killed them?
I mean, shit. Yeah, I would, because I would not want them to.
That's really
undergo
weird.
The horrific pain of, losing a.
But
a
not
child
alcoholism,
in that awful
though.
way.
If you could compensate for alcoholism, you wouldn't do that, though.
No, because again, I think that alcoholism is a bit more complex.
Okay, so what about if it was 20% that you would be an alcoholic? Would you go ahead and just,
No.
tell them 50%?
So a degenerative brain disease is going to kill you. Alcoholism is not always going to kill you. There are, in fact, many recovered alcoholics.
Chevy makes America's most dependable trucks. Because in a Chevy truck, dependability comes standard. Chevrolet, together, let's drive.
Leave basic behind with Floor & Decor's new HydroShield Plus styles. Our waterproof laminate offers the durability you need in the wood look styles you love. Starting at $149, shop in store or visit us online at flooranddecor.com.
Okay, so to get this right, you do believe in eugenics. You just only believe in eugenics when it comes to like contagious or non-contagious diseases that you could only potentially inherit.
I think that it is humane to inform someone if they are pregnant that they could experience a devastating loss in the future.
That's not what you said. You said you would advise them to have an abortion.
I mean, you can advise them, but you can't force them to.
Yeah, you're not forcing them, but why are you advising them to? Because there's a debilitating thing that you don't want that child to live with? And
There's
you don't
a
believe...
50-50 chance.
Yeah, there's 50-50 chance. That's right.
Which is pretty brutal. 50-50 chance that a child survives or dies horribly and you are left traumatized and scarred. Now, I would say that is humane.
Is that eugenics? Is that eugenics?
No, because the degenerative brain disease is going to kill you fairly immediately.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
And so you're taking out the child before that happens. You're taking out the undesirable things that you don't like. Is that eugenics?
I mean, how quickly does Huntington's disease kill you? Because I do think that there's a difference
fairly
between...
quickly.
Okay. So, again, I think that if you are going to have a child that immediately dies, yes, I think that I would
Not
advise
immediately.
someone.
They don't immediately die, but they might die in their 20s.
Oh, well, that's
horribly.
different. I thought you meant like
But they could
you know.
die. They could die way earlier than that too. It manifests very quickly.
Okay. Well, that would be different then, because I would think that, you know.
So you wouldn't
I think
advise
you
them
should-
to have an abortion if they had a 50% chance of getting this debilitating neurological disease that would kill them?
I would warn them that there's a 50% chance that this could happen.
But you would
and
advise them to
trust
do
that
it?
They could make no. I would trust that they could make their own decisions and choose what they want to do.
So to get this right, if there is a society somewhere
Mhm.
which implements a law which says that if you hold this gene for Huntington's disease and it's rare, and by you not reproducing, we will eliminate this disease from planet Earth for all time, you would advise them not to do that.
I don't think that you can successfully eliminate a gene from society for all time.
Why not?
I think that would.
What are you talking about? The genes are eliminated
extremely
from society all the time, for all time. What do you mean?
To intentionally wipe it out?
Yeah, I'm sorry, have you ever seen dog breeders? Dog breeders breed out bad genes all the time, right? And that's how you end up with different dog breeds. That's the whole point of it, right?
Yeah.
The whole
but
point is
also-
to edit out all the shit you don't want to keep in the shit you do want. Do you think that humans are different, that you could not selectively edit until you got to a breed that you wanted?
I think that we are more intelligent and complex than dogs. I also do think that.
So we should select for intelligence?
I would also like to say, like to say that I am against selective dog breeding. I don't think it's.
You're against
humane.
Why would you? So like no service dogs anymore?
No, that's fine.
Well,
but
that's
I
selective
think that-
dog breeding, lady.
No, service dogs can be a variety of breeds. However,
No,
I
they
am-
really can't be a variety of breeds. You have to have specific breeds to be service
I've
dogs.
seen plenty of service dogs of.
No, you haven't seen. Okay, what?
Well, they've like opened up the door for like therapeutic service
Yeah.
dogs.
That's not a service dog.
That
Okay, if
doesn't-
you want blind people to have a
so
dog,
I-
it's got to be a certain breed.
Right. I had a friend who had like severe like muscle tissue issues, who had one service dog that was a German Shepherd, another one that was like this. I don't know what kind of dog breed he was, but his name was Peanut, and he was very small.
Could you have
and
a
they both
service
did-
dog
they-
that was
they
highly?
both did their job just fine.
Got it. Could you have a service dog which was highly aggressive?
I don't think that would be good, but again, I think that
No,
breeding
probably
for
not.
aggression
So-
is bad.
So wait, I'm super confused. So you think that we should allow people to have service dogs which are highly aggressive? Or do you think we should breed aggression out of service dogs so that they're no longer highly aggressive?
I don't think that we breed specifically for service dogs.
We breed
unless you are-
specifically for service dogs, yes.
But there's so many
Specifically.
breeds that can be service
That's
dogs.
true, but there's not so many breeds that
Right.
can be for every ailment, right? You're going to have a dog, for instance, if it's leading blind people, who's highly intelligent, has intuition, is not very aggressive. You're going to have all sorts of traits which are built into that dog, right? Through selective breeding.
Let me look this up, because it actually does seem like
Look it
there's a
up.
wide variety of like dogs. So actually German Shepherds are pretty commonly service dogs, but they're also very commonly police dogs.
That's true.
And
So here's what's
that's
interesting.
a dog trained for aggression, correct?
Here's what's so interesting. You can take a German Shepherd and have specific breeds which are non-aggressive and breed only non-aggressive service dogs, and you can have German Shepherds which have high aggression and only breed aggressive police dogs.
So what I'm seeing right now is that like mutts are actually like fairly reliable service dogs, and it's based more
For
on their
blind people?
For the blind?
Uh-huh. You're just going to go get a random mutt at the pound?
I mean, no, you do have to, ensure that the individual dog is like has the temperament.
And
but
what's the
dogs
best
of
way to do that?
Dogs of the same breed can be okay. My mom had 2 poodles, same parents.
Yep.
Rubio, rest in peace, he just passed away. Was the most calm dog in the entire world.
Got
All
it.
right. He was also very small, but he was a protector. Okay, one time we got charged by a black lab and Rubio, all like fucking 15 pounds of him, squared up and hurt his little legs, growling at him because he was an elderly little dog.
Makes sense.
But he was, again, just a very calm little guy, never barked, just so chill. His sister, Maisie, she's the most nervous creature in the entire world. I've never met a yappier dog. She's fucking obnoxious. Love her to death, but holy mother of God.
So what a dog breeder would do.
And she's also terrified of other dogs. But
so
again,
what a dog breeder would do, who was selecting for the traits for the blind person, is they would take like the timid dog and they would drown it. And then they would take the traits from the dog who isn't drowned, and I'm not kidding, they just take buckets and they drown the puppies in the buckets, and then they would take the non-aggressive one and they would rebreed that one, and then if there was any of the puppies that had any of those traits, they would drown those, and then they would, everything right down to eye color they select for, because it can have vision impairment issues. So the thing is like, so by your metric though, we wouldn't even have service dogs because you don't believe in selective breeding. But you would need to use selective breeding to have animals that were competent. Like, how could you not believe in selective breeding unless you're a vegan? Like, we selectively breed for cows. We selectively breed for the dumbest chickens. We selectively breed for the most docile animals to feed the planet.
Well, we were talking specifically about dogs, and I'm not going to lie.
Well, you said animals, right?
My mind went primarily to, like, the existence of, like, pugs and other animals that are kind of,
That's all eugenics.
Yeah, they're kind of miserable, aren't they? Pugs.
No, they don't seem very miserable. They seem pretty happy to me. But even if it was the case that I granted that they were pretty miserable,
they don't live very long. They have a lot of health issues.
Yeah, but there's tons of purebred dog breeds that do live a long time and are very well adjusted and very happy, who are made that way through eugenic programming, right?
Okay, so the thing is, I will grant you that. Maybe sometimes we can selectively breed animals that.
But we can't do. But okay, so what would be the argument then? So I don't believe in eugenics. I'm not a eugenicist, but I have a universal ethical system which would pertain to why it should not be. For you, you just say, based on this Harvard paper, they're pointing out a selective trait of cooperation in human beings and why it's so necessary that they have it. What I don't understand is how you get from that to you could cooperate as human beings to select out things which are not good for humanity, but you wouldn't do it. That's a contradiction to me.
Why I wouldn't practice eugenics?
Well, why it would be if you as a society cooperated and eliminated various traits from humanity which were dire to human existence, why you wouldn't do that?
Well, I suppose a society could do that.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that generally that society would struggle to make friends. I think that they would struggle to cooperate with other people. But I also feel like it would be incredibly
Why would they struggle to cooperate
illogical.
with other people?
Because, again, I think that they would struggle to find people that share the same moral values, such as, some people are bad. Let's get rid of certain people with certain traits.
So let's say you have a society of millions of people who don't want to cooperate with other people. So what?
You couldn't say that you have like this universal, ethical framework to call back upon, because again, it is like one that is, constantly up for debate. Is it not?
No, it's not. No.
You just said it's like one that people have to determine.
So do you think
people argue?
If you think,
again, it's also based upon your interpretation of the text.
If you use, what you're talking about is you're talking about interpretive logic. So you're saying, are you claiming I can't make a universal claim and justify it?
I don't want to make lesson plans. I want to make no plans. I want to think less about perfect attendance and more about the perfect hand. I'm tired of bus duty. I want boat duty. I'd like to announce that this teacher is out for recess. No homework, no problem. The learning objectives are now all about relaxing, no matter the time of year. So play Coastal and go have some fun for fun's sake.
You've got a big new website idea and the team loves it. Instead of taking months to build it, why not just use Framer? With Framer, designing is building. No handoffs, no waiting. Build your full website. Build landing pages. Build anything. With a robust CMS and everything you need for great SEO, big teams worldwide love Framer. Design and launch all in one place. With enterprise security, 24/7 support, and 99.99% uptime, Framer is ready for your biggest ideas. Let's build.
I think that you cannot claim that my moral framework is inherently inferior to yours, or in some capacity doesn't.
Oh no,
function the same
no.
way
It's the
as
opposite.
yours is.
It's the total opposite. I think you're misconstruing it. The fact of the matter is that the secular framework I love. I think it's great. I wish more of you would adopt only the type of framework you have, because when men like me get into positions of power and authority and we want to be oppressive, you don't have a single claim that you can make except that you just don't like it very much. And so ultimately, I think it's fine. I've always thought that this was a massive weakness of secularists, that the only claims that they make about morality is that it's just subjective and relative, because if that's the case, then any dictator who rises up and takes over your society and they just convince X amount of your society they're good, you really don't have a leg to stand on to say they're not. You can only say, based on my own preferences, I just don't like this. And if that's the case, what the fuck do I care? Okay, well, according to my preferences, I do. So it's just like, if that's the case,
again,
if that's how you want to run society.
On the premise that we do have like sort of an inborn morality.
Yeah, but you can't get an
and we
ought
do,
from
and
an
we exhibit these traits of wanting to cooperate and work with each other.
But
and
let me
share,
explain
and
why
not
that
necessarily to our benefit.
Yeah, but let me explain why that doesn't matter. I'll just explain why that doesn't matter.
Why doesn't that matter?
Because if it was the case that there was a counter society, right, who came up right along with us at the same time, they evolved they were indistinguishable from us, except they didn't have that trait, and they did have an inborn trait to rape. Is that an immoral society?
That they have an inborn trait to rape? I don't think that
if they had it.
If there was a rape trait.
Yeah. This society evolved the same time as us. They're Homo sapiens instead of sapiens. They're Srapians. They're Homo sapiens, and the Homo sapiens evolved at exactly the same time as Homo sapiens. Exactly the same time. They're like a counter. They look exactly like us, talk exactly like us. They're exactly like us in every way, except the Srapians, they have to rape. That's inbuilt in them. They have to do it. Are they doing anything wrong?
Yeah, obviously.
What are they doing wrong except being born with a trait you don't like?
They're exhibiting antisocial behaviors.
Yeah, but why is that wrong except it's a trait you don't like?
Because it is not conducive to creating a
But that's a trait.
society.
You said that's a trait you have, that's inborn in you, that's an immutable characteristic.
But you were also making up the rape trait.
Yes, I know, to test your logic. So if the Srapians have
you're
this
making
trait...
up the rape trait.
Yes, I know, I'm making it up. Yes, I agree. I'm making up the
works.
Srape trait. So the Srapians, they have an inborn trait, and that trait is to rape. And you have a trait that's inborn in you genetically to not do that. Why are the Srapians evil and you're not evil?
Because I have empathy.
They have empathy too.
They don't.
Yeah, they do.
But they selectively apply it.
Yeah, but why does that make them bad if they have that as a trait? That's an inborn trait they can't help. Why are they evil and you're good? What's the paradigm here that makes the Srapians evil, but you good? If you're both born with this trait, except they're not born with that trait, they're born with the R trait, and you're born with the intuitive cooperation trait. What is the thing that makes the Srapians evil?
Probably the rape trait, which does not exist.
But if it did exist,
there is no group of human beings that.
Yeah, I know they're not human beings. They're not Homo sapiens. They're Srapians. What makes the Srapians evil?
I just feel like this is like a completely.
Can you just
absurd
answer the
argument
question?
because
What makes the
what would
Srapian
make them
evil?
evil?
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. I think because again, the profound lack of empathy in the violation of other human beings, other Homo sapien, whatever, same genus, the violation of their right to exist without harm. Now,
So the thing that makes you good is that you're
Uh-huh.
born that way.
I think the thing that makes me want to be good and behave in a way
Is
that
that
is
you're
good,
born that
yes,
way.
We are.
So
we
so
are
basically, so what you're saying, is what makes humanity good. What makes us good, man, is that we're humans. And if we're not humans, then we're not good. That's it.
A style icon. Mark Nason is here with the latest looks, quality craftsmanship, and trending styles for men and women who want to stand out. Set off your fit with Mark Nason by Skechers.
Resume writing can be a daunting task. It's no small feat.
I've been hiring for 12 or 13 years, and I've sifted through 150 plus resumes.
When you format your experience, you should go for a reverse chronological order. When you're transitioning careers, you should really focus on the transferable skills. When we think about resume keywords, that's often specific things that apply to this job that you're going for.
If you're ever unsure, make sure you check out the job description.
For more resume tips, search Indeed.
That's all. Listen, this is the reduction of your entire argument is because I'm a human being, I'm good. And if you're not a human being, you're not fucking good because you lack that trait.
If I have the capacity to have empathy and I have critical thinking skills,
They have the capacity for critical thinking and empathy.
and they still commit rapes,
Yes.
I think that would be.
That's
pretty
not a
fucked up.
contradiction. You
Again,
can have
what
empathy
would
and be a rapist, right?
Yeah, I mean, yes, you can. I mean, the
Yeah.
Nazis loved animals.
Yeah, okay, so
and
then
they hated
so,
Jewish people.
So what is the thing that
Again,
makes these people evil? They were born this way. What makes them evil?
they
What
wouldn't be-
makes
I
the
don't think that-
Srapians, who have the same exact genetic makeup as you, except this one trait, this evolutionary trait, what makes the Srapians evil and you good?
Evil is not a genetic trait.
Yeah, I'm
But if there was a
asking if
species
they
that
had this
was
genetic
born
trait, what would
evil-
make them bad? What makes the Srapians bad?
Dude, I don't because of the rape. But again, dude, even if we
So
turn
you're
this,
just saying
if I
that
turn
we're
this around
human?
on you, if I turn this around
Turn
on
it
you,
around on me.
if I turn it around on you, like
Mhm.
why would it be bad? Because you think God is telling you that it's bad?
Let's just assume that I'll just take
Okay.
your worldview on this, in fact.
No,
right?
no. I want you to
Mhm.
speak from your worldview.
Yeah, so I would appeal to the Christian God and the universal ethics that come down through Christian ethics. I'd give you the demonstration through suppositional logic as to why you would need to appeal to a God to even make knowledge claims to begin with. And then we would go down the pathway of the path of, I guess the best way to do it is if we were to take multiple worldviews, and we're able to show that all of them were not true except this worldview. This is how I'm trying to explain the impossibility of the contrary to you, right? This would be the pathway for me to logically get to Christianity. Now, I'm happy to answer your questions on that if you want, but the thing that's so interesting about this conversation is like, why does it even matter? Let's say I was born with the trait to be a Christian. There would be no reason for you to deny me my Christianity, nor any of the ethical frameworks or purviews in which I appeal to. And I can point to the fact that there is scientific literature that shows that we have genetic predispositions towards religion. So if it was just the case that I was genetically predisposed to be a Christian, you would have no leg to stand on to even try to falsify it. If it is the case that all you can say is that the Srapians would need to be destroyed because they're not humans, that's what your worldview reduces to. Do you understand? Like, do you understand why I see this as being so absurd? Because if you say humans are born with a trait of cooperation, therefore we should cooperate. Okay, that makes sense. Srapians are born with the trait to rape. Therefore they should rape? And your answer is, well, no. Well, then your worldview here doesn't make any sense because on the one hand, you say if you're born to do this thing, you should. But if these people over here were born to do this thing, they should not. And so you're making a universal claim about what is ethical. You're making a universal claim that human beings are more ethical than a counter-human species. You would be still more ethical. You're making right now a universal claim. That's what I'm trying to show you.
Well, it's only a universal claim in your fantasy world in which there is an intelligent race that is genetically predisposed
That's
to
right.
commit rapes, which
yeah,
is
and in
not
that
at
world,
all.
with the universal, listen.
We are not these. We are humans,
you,
though. Like the thing that
Yeah.
that we are different from other animals
Mhm.
because we have such a significant capacity for critical thinking. Our cognitive abilities are incredible. There are, in fact, animals that do seem to. Chimpanzees versus bonobos are actually a great example of this. Chimpanzees tend to be significantly more aggressive than bonobos. They do, in fact,
bonobos
they
are
rape,
closest
they murder,
ancestor,
they
I believe.
cannibalism.
No,
Yep,
chimpanzees
they
are.
cannibalize.
Aren't
They're-
chimpanzees actually the closest ancestor? But bonobos, they have some type of like matriarchal society, so liberals always appeal to them. I don't remember.
They're both actually extremely close to us. It might be bonobos. I don't remember. But however,
But anyway, so what? So bonobos. If bonobos, if they have a Shrape culture, can we take them all out?
No, but the difference between us and bonobos and chimpanzees, our closest relatives, are that they lack the capacity to. They lack the predisposition to cooperate the way that we do. They lack the intelligence. They don't have it. We have it. We have thought. We have the ability to exercise our critical thinking skills.
I agree.
We both have the inborn.
I agree. You and
empathy.
we have the ability to exercise our critical thinking skills. So, why aren't you driving a car right now?
Oh, I'm sitting in my house.
Right. Okay. What you just engaged in was a hypothetical. What I did was I took something which does not exist, and then I put it in front of you to get some type of inductive reasoning so that you could respond to the claim you're making, which is that you're not driving. So I know that what you can do, if I give you a hypothetical, is respond based on things that aren't factual and do not exist. In the case of the Srapians, they do not exist, they're not factual. But it is not an argument for you to say, because these things don't exist, I don't need to respond to my own logic of if they did. They do inside of the fantasy hypothetical I made up. There's a group who have a trait which is internal that makes them Srape. That's what they do. They're called the Srapians. And
Chevy makes America's most dependable trucks. Because in a Chevy truck, dependability comes standard. Chevrolet, together, let's drive.
An AI platform where all your knowledge is in one place. It's a happy place. It's a nice place. Where customer experience solutions are so seamless, they're soothing. That's so nice.
other than that trait, they're completely identical to human beings. And they're born this way.
Well,
are they
driving
evil?
in a
Hang
car
on.
is a
Are they
realistic
evil or not?
hypothetical.
Okay, why aren't you in a spaceship right? Why aren't you on Mars right now?
I wouldn't qualify to go to Mars, frankly. I don't have the skills.
So wait a second. So I just gave you I just asked you a question. You had to come up in your head with a fantasy which envisioned you on Mars, and you know you're
So,
not
Andrew,
there,
I do
and it doesn't
understand
exist.
what
Just
a
answer the
hypothetical
question.
is,
Good,
but
then just
I
answer
guess
the question.
I could also come up with random ass hypotheticals.
Then
for
give
you.
me those. Give me
Andrew,
those.
You have no listen. I don't like to make that. I'm agnostic, but I don't like to get really aggressive with religious people because I respect their beliefs. But you don't have any proof that your God exists, and you don't have any proof that your universal Christian ethics are, in fact, the best way to be. You have individually made that decision. You have made the decision to adhere to them yourself. You have selected that religion. You have
Okay,
selected
I'm
this
willing to
denomination.
engage with both of those questions.
Okay.
As soon as you answer mine. The Srapians exist. They're inside of them. I know you're trying to evade this desperately, but please just answer, because this is the spirit of real good faith. I'm trying to test your logic so that you can really understand how distorted this is. The Srapians exist counter to human beings. They evolved at exactly the same time. They have this imbued trait that you do not have, and you have an imbued trait that they do not have. What is the thing that makes them bad?
I would say that if they have an inborn predisposition to do harm to others, and in fact to do harm to me and my own, I would say that
They don't have any. They're not. They don't ever srape you and yours. They never srape outside of their own srapian
I think
species.
that I think that being an intelligent species. Now, mind you, there are animals that are instinctually do harm. Like I think that pit bulls are a good example of that. They are, raised to be aggressive. However, their nurture can overcome their nature for sure, right?
What's the thing that makes them evil? What's the thing that makes them bad? That's all I'm asking. What thing makes them bad? They're born this way. They scrape each other. Okay, that's what they do.
It would be their capacity for critical thought and empathy that does not allow them to overcome their desire to rape.
Got it.
I would say that would
so,
be...
So then animals, by this logic, are evil.
Animals aren't intelligent enough to comprehend the consequences of their actions.
Wait a second.
Many of them are not.
Wait. I'm super confused here. You said it's lack of empathy and a lack of critical thinking. So if it's a lack of empathy and a lack of critical thinking, animals have both those components. Lack of empathy, lack of critical thinking. Therefore, they would be evil.
No. I'm sorry. I'm saying that the Shrapians, the Shrapians have the capacity for critical thought, correct? They are as intelligent as we are.
Yes.
But they have a trait where they want to rape.
Yes, straight.
If you have the mental faculties to understand that you are doing harm to other individuals.
They don't think it's harmful because they don't have the same trait that you do. Their trait says that they're born to do this. That's what they do.
Their rape trait, their trait to
instinctual.
Yes.
So I think that
to them, right? This is as natural as breathing, as much as it is for you to naturally cooperate with other human beings.
Okay, so I would say that I grew up and had anger issues, and often my instinct when mad would be to hit people, but because I am a rational human being, thinking human being, I can go, this is actually really antisocial, and it would be bad. It would not be conducive to cooperating and living in a society with other people.
That's
so if the Shrapians encounter us, and they intelligently recognize that their way of life is abhorrent and evil to us, and we have to live in. But also, I guess that the rape is a kind of difficult, I hit you.
Get the strong arm, attorney John Foy and Associates.
There are over 1 billion reasons why thousands have called us after an accident. We've helped injured people recover over $1 billion because they called us first.
Well, we'll see if he can turn this defense into offense. He's doing a great job blocking shots here.
Right now, he's thinking more defensively, and he's doing a great job of not taking any damage. Oh, that hurt bad. Oh! And just get the foot on the opposite side to give himself the correct space to land these beautiful knees. That submission was tight.
Back to his feet. Final seconds here in round one. Right side control now, DC. You know he's in his element on the ground. A lot of tricks on his sleeve. A lot of tricks. All right, so that's the end of the round. Pretty significant damage done in that round. Cut on the cheek, sustained there from that strike. Now the cut man's got to get in there.
Oh, okay.
We'll just hang out until he comes back. No worries. I don't know if his webcam overheats or if his internet just sucks balls.
Gotcha.
But either way, he'll be back. No worries.
Okay.
No.
I might go pee real quick.
Why don't you go ahead and do that now? Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I have chugged 2 water bottles thus far.
That's okay. No, go for it. Take your time.
All right. I will be right back.
And hello to all of the maters. You got a dono goal up. You need to get 4 more in to meet that timer. You got 50 seconds to do it in. Don't disappoint. You guys have been doing great all night, and then now you're going to wait until the final well, not even the final. I don't even think we're halfway done, but you're going to wait till this dono to fail. 44 seconds. Unacceptable. While we're waiting for everyone, I know I said we would, obviously open the panel, but I've been allowing room for them to have this conversation. And most of you have already pointed out you haven't seen Andrew this calm, cool, and collected, in terms of especially talking with a progressive, left-leaning, feministic lady, right? So I find it to be a rarity to have this time or to have this moment or ability to do so. So since we're having this, we're going to let it roll. I'm going to let it roll 110%. And I'm totally okay with it. And if it's already 1 a.m. for me, so, maybe when Andrew gets back, we will see what happens, and maybe we can move. Be interested in letting some other people join the conversation and add a couple things into it, but we might lose the good conversation that we're having. So we will see. I don't know what's going on with Andrew. Looks like he's still up on his end.
Is he still like live? I don't know where he goes live.
Oh, he's back. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no idea what just happened. Stream crashed out for no reason at all.
Yeah, your thing started spiraling, so it's okay. It's no big deal.
But anyway, yeah. So just real quick to briefly wrap this up, because we're just going in circles, and I get it. I'm just going to say this, like, the reason that this makes no sense is because anything that you're appealing to for why the Strapians are bad, right, is the same thing that you would be appealing to for why it is that you're good. But it just begs the question of what makes that good. And you say, well, what makes it good is that it's an internal trait that I have. That's what makes it good. The Strapians also, but what makes that good is because you're that thing. You see what I mean? Does that make sense?
But also the idea of an inborn trait to rape, but you say the Strapians don't have an issue with it. Rape is very, very explicitly a violation of consent.
Oh no, the female Strapians definitely have a problem with it.
Okay, so the female Strapians definitely have a problem with it.
Yeah, unless they're doing it, then they don't have a problem with it.
Okay, I see. So, okay.
But the thing is like, when we're talking about, do you understand when you say, the reason that I can make these moral claims is because I have an ingrown trait that is just moral because it exists. They say the same thing. They'll make the counterclaim to you. I also am moral because I have an ingrained trait and it just exists. What is the thing that you would actually be appealing to that they're not appealing to? It's just your own trait again. You see what I mean?
Yes, but they have a profoundly antisocial trait.
Yeah, but that's the problem. Like you say, I have this trait, and the thing that makes the trait good is that it's the trait. And they say, yeah, I have a trait too, and the thing that makes it good is that it's the trait. Yeah, but it's not though. It's not integral to the survival of their species. They still cooperate. They just also have this other trait where they strape. Yes. Yes, that's right. And so you don't have the trait, but you appeal to this other trait and say the thing that makes this trait good is that it's good because it's good, man, because I have it. That's what makes it good. They appeal to the same thing. Do you see why that doesn't make sense?
I think that they are evil and bad because they understand the harm that they are doing, and they don't care.
Yeah, but that would be appealing to a trait again. The thing that makes you think that that's harmful and bad is that cooperation trait that you have. Their trait.
You're using the word rape, and the female Strapians do not like it. They
recognize
that they are
doing. And the male ones don't like it when they do it to them. Yeah.
Okay, so they understand that they are doing evil and cruel things to each other.
They don't consider it evil. They consider it part of their nature. It's just part of their nature that they may not like, or sometimes don't like.
1 minute to go in the round.
Even though
then surely,
they still do it by instinct.
Yeah, they do it by instinct.
right.
And
So
they
human
appeal
beings
to
kill
the
each
trait.
other, and do we not do everything in our power typically
Is that an is but
to circumvent murder? I mean, we could argue
exactly
that,
my
that we
point.
do.
Exactly my point is that if it were the case that you had a trait inside of you that made you murder, and you just appealed to the trait and said it must be good because I was born with it, it's exactly what you're doing. You're saying the only thing that makes you good is that you have a trait inside of you that you think is good. Anybody can make the same claim with any trait. That's the whole point. A murderer could do
That
it.
has
A
been
rapist could do it.
empirically observed. There's empirical evidence for
Sure,
this.
but if it
that
was
we as human
empirically
beings do this.
observed that they had a trait that made them rape, what would make that less moral than the thing you're appealing to? That you're both appealing to the same thing. You're literally both appealing to the same exact concept.
Then the fantasy rape species.
Yes, that's right. The
The
fantasy rape
intelligent,
species.
evil fantasy rape
Yes,
species.
that's right. Yes.
Do
you think that
makes
saying
them
that it's
shitty is that they know
hypothetical
that
fantasy-
they're doing harm, and they
But
still
they-
continue to do it.
Yeah, I know, but you have a trait inside you that makes you think that's bad, right?
Yes,
And you're
but
appealing
I
to
also
that trait and saying it's based on that trait that I have that tells me this is bad, right? They're appealing to the same thing. A trait where they say, no, this is good, right? You say, no, it's bad, but you're both appealing to the same thing. You're both appealing to a trait that you have.
Well, I suppose we'd have to do what we're doing right now, which is, kind of try to figure out how to live with each other, with a different moral
Why do you need to live
codes,
together?
I suppose.
You don't need to live together. Why
Oh,
do you
then I
need to do
wouldn't.
that?
I wouldn't want to live with each other.
Exactly,
Then
you
it,
wouldn't wanna
then it
live with
wouldn't be
them.
relevant. Then it wouldn't be relevant.
No, it's
It
still
would not be
relevant.
If
It's
I
still
didn't have to live
relevant.
with the Thrapians, if I didn't have to live with them, I'd be like, well, that's really gross and awful and evil, and I think that they're bad, but I don't have to live with you.
But the thing that makes them bad is that you have a trait inside you that you were just born with. And that trait is good because you say it's good. Do you
It is
see?
good because it allows me to live in peace with my species. It has so Stanford is the last name of the guy, not the institution that this academic journal belongs to, by the way, because you said it was Harvard earlier. He argues that
I,
this
in fact,
actually
never said it was Harvard, I'm sure.
Okay, so
I'm pretty sure anyway.
This specific like our capacity to our tendency to externalize our morality and determine who we wish to associate based upon our externalized morality has probably significantly increased our cognitive capacities and abilities. So this might be a part of why we are such an intelligent species.
These are all descriptors, though. All that these
Yes.
do is explain why we're this way, not why we should be this way.
Why we should be this way?
Yeah. Do you understand that, if it is the case that I have a gene, right,
Mhm.
that makes me more prone to alcohol, which I probably do because I'm Irish, right? And this is like a common stereotype. Why shouldn't I be an alcoholic if I have this inborn trait? You would say, well, because, I don't know, it could ruin your life or this or that. But if I want my life ruined and I just want to be an alcoholic, do you care?
Do I care if you want to ruin your life?
Yeah.
And she has exploited that, and she's going to continue as she tries to get her hand raised.
If I had to live with you in my community,
You don't have to live with me in your community. I live on
Would
the
I
other side of
care
the
that
world
you
in
are like
Ireland,
this?
and we all drink ourselves to death because we think it's fun.
I would be like, whoa, that's weird and bad. That's not good. That's
What makes it?
antisocial.
Well, what makes it bad though?
The antisocial properties. I suppose the one universal
Yeah, but
that
you see how you keep on appealing-
I can grant you, the one universal that I can grant you is that I think as animals, we do have some sort of drive to propagate our species. Would you agree or disagree?
Well, no, I would disagree. I think that we have the drive to have sexual intercourse, not necessarily to propagate.
Right, which we want to. which leads typically to reproduction. We have natural desires that cause arousal.
Yes, that is the case. So
Right.
it is a side effect of sexual intercourse that we have children, but the desire to propagate itself, I think that that would vary greatly, but the desire to have sexual intercourse doesn't vary so much. So no, I'm not willing to kind of grant the idea that human beings have a massive drive necessarily for propagation, but rather a massive drive for sex, which leads to propagation. I would say most mammal species operate in this fashion.
Yep.
That rabbits don't give a shit about having kids; they just want to fuck.
No, of course not. It's just it's what we do.
Yeah.
You know, it's what our bodies, what our biology.
So the thing is when we're talking about aughts,
right?
when we're talking about aughts versus ises, you're giving me a bunch of descriptors for how human beings operate. That's great. But not descriptors for why they ought to operate that way. And then when I ask you why they ought to, you say because we do. We ought to operate this way because we do operate this way. That's why we should operate this way, because we operate this way. That's not only circular, but it's actually retarded, because you can just make that you can make that claim with anything. The Irish should drink themselves to death. Why? Because they do drink themselves to death. Why is that bad though? Because that's what we do.
But I also feel that you are operating on the same circular logic, in the sense that, like, if I ask you why something is moral or immoral, you will say because God says so. And I'll say, how do you know God says so? Well, I just think he does. Like, again, it's going to go, there's no really, like, again, like, evidence that you could provide me to have a sort of concrete.
But here's the thing that's funny is, like, what standard of evidence? First of all, two questions. One, what standard of evidence would you even accept? As the most prominent atheist, Richard Dawkins, said, if he looked at the sky and it said, "Richard, I'm God," he would reject it. Okay, and then second, even if that was the case, who cares? Like, even if I'm totally wrong, who gives a shit? Ultimately, you can never appeal to anything for why I'm wrong, except you are because you are, because I think you are, because you are, because the traits inside me say you are, and the reason they're right is because they are. And so
you
ultimately,
can't prove it. You also can't prove why I'm wrong.
Oh no,
it's only on the basis of your.
I think you missed the whole point. I think you missed the whole point.
Your God,
I'm not
man.
trying
like,
to prove you wrong. I'm trying to make sure that you affirm the belief that all things which are moral are just completely subjectively relevant or relative to your preferences and feelings. I don't give a shit about you being wrong. I'm happy that you hold those preferences, because that means that any condemnation that you ever give as a moral prescription towards another human being doesn't mean shit, because it's just fucking relative. It doesn't mean
Neither
shit
does yours,
if a
though.
dictator goes in. That's fine. I'm looking for the position of power. I'm telling Christians they should be in a position of power and authority, and fucking secularists can't make a single argument for why they shouldn't, except because it makes us feel bad. So you're banking on Christian morality. You're banking on our moral system to hold us back from literally ruling over all of you fuckers. And that's what's so hilarious. I'm banking on Christian ethics and Christian
has led to the greatest peace on our earth.
What? When was this?
I mean, secularism brought us like America. It brought us America,
What
didn't
secularism didn't? Okay, and was America founded on colonialism and
it?
genocide?
I mean, the reason that you can be like
Wait,
your
hang on,
Orthodox
I'm
Orthodox
willing to
Christian
grant
is
it.
that you could be because of secularism.
Wait a second.
It is
Hang on,
secularism
hang on.
that allows you
Was
to
America-
exist as an Orthodox
was
Christian right
America-
now in America.
Okay, was America founded on colonialism and genocide?
It sure was,
It
but it
did,
was
and that
also
was brought
founded
to us
upon
by
secularism,
secularism. Okay,
which
great.
was the good part of it. Yeah,
So
these things
secularists
are actively kind of complex.
secularists who are peaceful brought us colonialism and genocide. Brilliant argument.
No, I mean the founding principles of America. How the
no,
country was settled is different.
I get it. Hang on. The founders, who were a bunch of genocidal maniacs, who killed all the Indians, right? Killed all the natives, killed all the people, right? And committed colonialism and genocide. They were secularists, and secularists brought us the greatest amount of peace. Is that right?
Well, no, many of the settlers themselves were religious, but like we were not killing Christians. We were not killing other Christians. Again, it was secularism that allows you to
So only
exist
Christian
as you
lives
do
matter?
now.
So only Christian
No.
lives matter?
No, that's not at all what I said. But I'm talking about you. Like
Okay,
again,
I'm talking
like
about
it
me
is,
too.
it is secularism that allows you to be what you are. You are not like forced to adhere to whatever government, state, religion you want. Like it is the secularists that allow you to have these beliefs.
Oh, I didn't know that. So there's no state religions anywhere that allow people to have the free exercise of religion, even while they have a state religion.
There are some, but they typically tend to, again, be pretty, you know, shitty towards people that do not adhere to the
Oh, really? Like the
main
Norwegian
main
nations?
religion.
Like I'm sorry, not the Norwegian nations, the Nordic nations. The Nordic nations who have state religions, they tend to be really shitty towards people who aren't part of those religions, do they?
They have a no. So Norway is not a Christian
I
state.
didn't say Norway. I said Nordic nations.
Which Nordic nations are Christian state?
Look
have a
up
state
Nordic
religion?
nation, state religion.
Looks like that strike opened up a cut, John, but it's nothing to worry about now. But he's got to start to protect it.
I believe it's. I'm trying to go off the top of my head here. I usually have a reference in front of me.
So most Nordic countries have disestablished their state churches.
That's nice. What about the ones who haven't, though?
So it's just Denmark.
Okay, so Denmark has a state religion, and they're really just not peaceful towards people who aren't part of that religion then?
Denmark's fine, but it seems like they're most likely to disestablish the Church of Denmark as the state religion. I also think that there's probably too many prominent examples of, you know, nations that are
when do they
religion, such as
when do they plan
Israel,
on getting rid of the state
Iran
religion?
are very violent. When do they plan on it? I think that they most likely will, if all the other Nordic countries are.
Oh, really? When?
When?
Yeah.
It was 2017 when Norway did.
Norway did what?
Disestablish the separated of church. Hold on.
Is there a Church of England by chance?
There is.
Oh, and what is that? Anglican?
Yeah, but there's
Are you
a
persecuted for not being
separation
Anglican?
of. You were at one point, yes. You were at one point.
You right
but
now?
But now it is secular.
So no, it's not.
They have
secular.
they have a
No, it's
separation
not.
of church and state. They have a
Okay,
separation
do you
of church and
understand
state.
that you saying that there's a separation of church and state doesn't mean that secularists brought us that? That Christians can have state churches and still allow you the free exercise of worship? Do you understand that these are not claims? When you make these claims, secularists are the reason that you can worship right now. No, in fact, that's not the case. The very first secularist nation I'm aware of was the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union, hang on, stop. The very first,
Your ancestors had to flee.
the very first, yeah, okay, great. They had to flee, man. Everyone had to flee at some point, man. But anyway, the very first secular state I can think of was the Soviet Union. And the Soviet Union did away with Christianity by killing them. That's what they did. The Tsar of Russia, who they went in and killed, was an Orthodox Christian. They killed them all. That's what the Bolsheviks did. They killed them. Bolshevik atheists killed everybody. They
Well,
weren't
actually, the
fucking
first secular
peaceful.
state was the United States of America.
No, it wasn't a secular state. No.
It was.
No, it wasn't.
That is in our Constitution, isn't it?
No, it's not in our Constitution. The First Amendment says that the Congress cannot make an establishment of religion which favors one over the other. That is not a secular state at all.
Yeah, that is a secular state.
No, it's not a secular
That is
state.
a separation of,
no,
of
it's
church
not.
and state. We
Our
have a separation
original-
of church and
Lady,
state.
our original, all of our original states had state religions, all of them, post the First Amendment. Post the First Amendment, the 10th Amendment allowed for states to have their own state religion. You are
Yeah,
totally
but not our
wrong.
country. That's a different. That is
Bro,
not our nation.
every
Our nation
single-
was a secular nation.
No,
It's a
how can it be a secular
man.
nation where individual states can have their own state religion? How's that a secular nation?
Well, that is, you know, a difference between federal and state powers. That is
Yeah,
allowing
so
states
then
to
it's
determine
not a
what they
secular
want.
nation. That's just made
No,
up
we had a
tribe.
secular nation, man.
No, that's
because
not a
we
secular nation,
We don't have
man.
an official religion, and there's a separation
You
of church
don't
and
need
state.
to have an official religion
There
at
is
the
a
federal level for
separation
you to have it at the
between
state
church and
level.
state, man.
No,
I don't.
there's
You
not,
can't
man.
argue.
Show me
There
the
is.
Constitution anywhere where it says there's a separation between church and state. Anywhere.
The First Amendment prevents Congress from us creating or establishing a religion.
So I'm sorry, where does it say anything about separation of church and state?
I don't. It's dude. It is literally like the First Amendment. Like I don't even.
The First Amendment
like, I
literally
don't
doesn't
even,
say that. It literally doesn't. Literally. Quite literally, it literally doesn't quite literally say that at all.
I mean, I guess if you can't like read
No, I can read. Can you
or
read me the
understand
word
context
church?
clues,
Can you read me the word
These
church? Can you
context
read me
clues.
any of that? What context clues? Do you understand that if it is the case that all of our states could have state religions and the federal government couldn't interfere in the establishment with states making state religions, this wasn't a secular nation. Do you understand that?
So
all that is saying is that Congress can't go to the states and tell the states which religion they have to follow. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all it's saying.
Precisely.
That's not a secular
They can't-
nation. What are you
Yes, it is.
talking
It is a
about?
secular.
It's not a
We have a
nation.
secular nation, man. Yeah.
A secular nation would be saying that I don't know, the Constitution prevents religion, or religion can't have an establishment of authority, or there can't be states. Or
Someone brought up a quote here from President John Adams: "As the government of the United States of America is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion." I want to pull
That's
it up.
nice.
John Adams, government of the United States.
You know, there was
not
way more
founded
founders
on
than John Adams, right?
Of course, yeah. But I mean, Thomas Jefferson, in the letter to the Danbury Baptist, reiterates that religion is a matter which lies solely between man and his God, that he owes account to none other for his faith or his worship. The legitimate powers of government reach actions only, not opinions.
Yeah.
I contemplate with solemn reverence that act of the whole American people, which declare that the legislature should make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof.
And when was Thomas Jefferson president?
He was the third.
Okay, and what years were those?
Let me do the math. I think George Washington had 3 terms, so that was.
And when did it? Well, what was the year on the letter? How about that?
1776.
What was the year on the letter?
Danbury Baptist.
Yeah. What year?
(1802).
Oh, 1802. So this was long after the Constitution was established. Is that correct?
Yeah, but in our, it's literally,
wait,
it
that's
is
really,
it's
wait a second, that's
guaranteed
really
as
weird.
Americans. We are guaranteed
that's really weird.
separation of church and
So
state.
Thomas Jefferson, who was going state to state because he wanted a stronger federal body, so he was trying to get states to eliminate state religions, which they were allowed to have under the federal Constitution. You're going to read his letter after the ratification of the Constitution in 1802 as though that's evidence of a secular nation. Brilliant argument.
We absolutely have this. It's in the let me see, what is this saying?
We absolutely don't have this. Read the 10th Amendment.
The 10th Amendment.
Yeah, read the 10th Amendment.
Reinforce the principle of federalism by saying that any power is not delegated to the federal government nor are reserved to the states of the listeners and those federal power only those explicitly belong to the Constitution. So yeah, as a nation, yeah, sure, certainly states could have their own individual
What the First
religions,
Amendment is
which
saying,
they no longer do. As
so what
far
the
as
first,
I understand.
but they could and can. But what the First Amendment actually says then is that Congress is not able to establish a law because, right, they left it up to the individual states and not as a federal authority. But that doesn't make it a secular nation. They literally left each state determine whatever state religion they wanted to. And inside of that state, it was highly enforced. How can you say we have a secular nation where individual states can say Catholics can't come here? Can you explain that to me?
Did we have states where Catholics weren't allowed to come there? Well, clearly we corrected. And also, it wasn't our nation; it was individual states.
Clearly, we corrected. I'm sorry.
Was,
First Amendment and 10th Amendment changed last time I looked because it didn't. The thing is that no, it wasn't founded as a secular nation. No, there were states that had their own independent religions, and yes, they could bar and make law based on those religions. How the fuck could that be a secular state?
The 14th Amendment enforces equal protection onto the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment. It is outlawed constitutionally. So
read the 14th Amendment. And give me
Amendment?
Yeah, read it.
Our citizen told due process. There's a new citizen clause.
Mm-hmm. What year was the 14th Amendment ratified?
I don't fucking remember.
1868?
Yeah, but man, the thing is that you are like
No,
you are arguing about all this stuff, and the
1868?
thing is that like I need you to understand. I need you to understand. It's my understanding that you're a recent convert. I don't know if you were atheist before or what. Were you atheist? Were you raised with a religion? Did you go to church?
Yeah.
Okay, but you're a recent convert to Orthodox Christianity.
Yeah, so what?
Like, no, there's nothing wrong with that. But the thing is that between different
It's
denominations,
not that recent anymore, by the way.
historically,
Mm-hmm.
it like, well, I mean, you should know this. I mean, your ancestors were most likely Catholics fleeing persecution from Protestants, and that's why
No,
they came to the
no,
U.S.
it'd
I'm
be the
sure.
other way around. It would be Protestants fleeing persecution from Anglicans.
Okay.
Mhm.
My bad. Most Irish
Definitely
are
not going to be
Catholics.
Catholics fleeing
Uh-huh.
Protestants, because it would be Protestants fleeing from Anglican. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay, my bad. It may as well have been a different religion. It may as well, Catholicism to the Protestant may as well have been Islam. So it does matter that our nation had a separation of church and state
But
and
it
was
didn't, though.
secular.
Yeah, but it
But it
didn't.
did.
But it
But it
didn't.
absolutely did.
But I
But it
demonstrated to
absolutely
you
did.
multiple times it didn't. All you have been able to do is give post hoc justification. After the Constitution was ratified, we already had states that had state religions, and you claim that they could make laws and discriminate based on those state religions, and that was perfectly acceptable, but somehow this was a secular nation. That literally makes no sense. That's like me saying my You're totally right.
There's
I
no
agree. More
stipulation
rulings.
in
More secular
Christianity
rulings,
that
please.
is anti-abortion.
Look, I love this. Look, I don't even know what we're arguing about. I love your system. Your system says that a bunch of religious fundamentalists can take over the entirety of the government, rule however they want, and you're going to blame secularists. I fucking love this shit. This is my favorite. Again, you're my favorite secularist I've ever debated with. I love this position. I wish that we could write this and enshrine it, this definition of secularism, into stone.
Oh, damn it. Oh, no. He was in a moment. We'll wait. We'll give him a second until he, whatever it does fixes itself. We'll give it a second.
Yeah.
I think maybe there's some confusion too with the states, because when they were originally becoming established, you had like your 13 original colonies and so on and so forth. People tended to cling to their communities, right? And then eventually the states were developing per that focal point. The communities kind of grew bigger and they established this as a state or a colony, for instance. And then eventually it expanded to where they said, hey, let's become one big united group and, protect ourselves together from over the pond. And essentially like a lot of those individual places, like they just kind of wanted their own little zone so they could do whatever they want, however they wanted. We didn't have like interstate travel rights. We didn't have interstate merchants, laws of that nature. So that's why you see slavery in some states is good and slavery in some states is bad, and some things are accepted.
Right.
And some things are not.
So federally there was no religion nationally enforced, and that was enshrined in our constitution.
Well, that's because
there could be no federally enforced religion.
But that's because the states were established first, and they said, well, up here in Delaware, there's a bunch of Amish. Over here, there's a bunch of Catholics. Over here, there's a bunch of,
right. So like religious freedom.
So basically,
right?
They said, hey, look, we want to come together, but we already recognize we're all different, and separated, but we want to be united. So no, they weren't going to establish this big whole umbrella, one religion overall, because they still acknowledged that we were all different communities.
Right. So it was secular. Yeah.
But it wasn't
secular. Federally secular.
If it was secular,
we allowed the states to do what?
Hold on. If it was secular, it wouldn't acknowledge that there was religious freedom to begin with, because it wouldn't even be saying that religion is a thing. It wouldn't even acknowledge it.
Sorry, what?
If it was secular, it wouldn't even be recognizing that all of these people were doing religious. It wouldn't even. We wouldn't have that protection of religious freedom to begin with. We would just say, well, whatever, like we're not even going to protect you.
So I beautiful combination up top. Could you both tell me what you think secular means?
What I'm saying is we wouldn't be so hard out on submitting that protection in place in order to acknowledge all of these different states, and then we're recognizing that we're all different. It just wouldn't. We put all of these protections in place, like we recognized that was important to us. Our religions were important to us.
Yeah, so secular would be
our individual religions.
Yeah,
that we were allowed to practice.
Not connected to religious matters.
Correct. Yes, our federal government is not connected to religious matters. It
yeah,
allows,
but that wouldn't make it a secular state. So it is connected to religious matters.
So potentially a big factor here,
it is It is granting freedom of religion. It is guaranteeing it right.
So then it's connected to religious matters.
Our laws are not determined by a religion, and we do not.
Yes, they are.
Enforce.
Many laws are determined by our religion. You're just objectively wrong.
Dude,
and at our inception, they were as well.
I don't think you know what the word secular means, man.
What does it mean? I just gave you a definition. Give me yours.
Secular?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my
Waiting for chat to tell you.
It is literally, no, I'm sorry, I'm looking up, I'm seeing if I need to find you a definition, but I still don't understand how you are not understanding this.
Give me your definition. Let's see if we can work this thing out.
It is, again, yes, not connected to religion in nature. So you are saying that granting freedom of religion
would be connected to religion in nature.
Well, this fight's been pretty. Power shots landing on both sides.
So saying that we will, as a nation, our laws will not be determined by one religion, and that we will allow everyone to practice their own religion. So you think that that's secular?
Yeah, if you allow each one of your states to have their own state religion, okay, and each one of them can make their own policies based on the religion they implement in that state, then what you're doing is you're affirming that the federal government has to recognize those religions, the opposite of secular.
There it is. Now he's going to mount.
Now, if you had a secular state, what you would do is you would say, there's no religion allowed to be established, and we're not going to recognize any of them. But having to recognize religions...
There's no federally recognized religion.
Yes, there's... Why don't you fact check your claim here?
There is no
yes, there is.
nationally recognized federal
Yes, there is.
We do not have a national religion.
I didn't say federal. Listen,
we do
you
not
just
have
got
a
done
national
getting...
religion, man.
Why is it you don't...
have a national
Nobody's
religion.
disputing that.
I'm just like, I am like shook right now.
But we had
being stupid is painful. It's true. Being stupid is painful.
Hold on. We may not have an over umbrella federal religion. We don't. We recognize that. But the states did, and the states were who created that protection layer over
I don't
all
think
of
you guys
that.
understand what a secular government is. I don't think you guys know what that means.
But then wouldn't that
What does it
mean
mean?
that states were religious governments? The states are the ones who created the federal law.
It is not based upon... It was the founding fathers that got together.
No, they didn't. The founding fathers. The founding fathers didn't get.
Government, though. Who makes up the federal government? Who makes that? It's the United States.
Yeah, see, it's representatives from the states, but not only that,
the
founders didn't just get together.
You guys don't know what secular means or what a secular government is.
Hold on.
Yes, it is crazy. You're right about that.
Oh my god.
You're totally right about that. This is crazy.
Remember the 13 original colonies, right? And that's how we kind of started off with these 13 little groups.
Well, actually, it all came from the Articles of Confederation. But the thing is, like, do you think that this was spontaneous? This was a working process for years and years and years.
Early Pops, they all had different. They were practicing different denominations.
Yes.
It's not fucking. Again,
Right.
it is a freedom of religion.
So
They
the federal
established that
right.
federally we would have
Yes.
a freedom of religion.
Yes, so
and that
each
there would
one
be
of
no
your
federally
individual
nationally
states-
support- Oh my god.
Yeah, so each one of your individual states who has a religion has to be recognized by the federal government. That would be the opposite of a secular state, dimwit. Opposite. That would be the opposite. A secular state would say there's no
Allowing
recognizing of
individual
religion.
states- so I need you guys to understand that.
Okay, I'm going to try to understand.
Allowing individual states to have their religions
And
does
to
not
make
mean that
laws,
the federal
and to
government
make
of the United that the
and to
federal
listening.
government of the United States
Yeah, but that's not what our
was
Constitution-
not secular. Was not secular. I
Yeah.
don't think you guys.
Not only was it
understand
not secular, but the First Amendment itself, it says that the federal government is not allowed to ratify a national religion. That's true.
It's we have a secular nation.
No, that's
then.
not what a secular nation would be.
We
They
are
have-
allowed to. We are allowed
Lady,
to
I
have
just
our
heard
own
you out.
religions.
I just heard you
my
out.
God.
If
Oh
a
my
state,
God.
if a state ratifies a religion as a state religion, and the federal government's forced to recognize it, that would not be a secular state.
Well, how about the discipline? How about the discipline to stay the
So
course?
what happened?
Secular doesn't mean that religion is never mentioned. That's not what
I
that
didn't say it
means.
did.
It means religion. That's so saying. saying that the United States government, our federal government, is secular, that does not mean they can't say anything about religion in the Constitution, guaranteeing people and states the right to their religions.
Yeah, but
and
what
not
they wouldn't.
enforcing a federal religion.
But they had to
Oh my God, it means religion's not
recognize
the
them.
basis.
They had to recognize them. That's the disconnect. Like, if they said, we're not going to recognize any of your state religions, sure, I could at least maybe see that there's an argument here for some sort of secularism. I still think that's a hard one, but they literally had to recognize those individual states' religions based on the 10th Amendment. That's the opposite of secular. Opposite. That means I can't use my power to come in and tell you that you can't rule religiously. That would be the opposite of secular.
Our federal government is not based upon a specific religion.
So what?
They are
It doesn't
not,
need to
they
be.
are not. I am telling you
What it
God.
originally did, what it originally did was it gave the states the room to utilize their religion and to apply it by law accordingly. You could basically say, you know, if you're Muslim, we don't want you here. If you're, Mormon, we don't want you. You could say those things within your state, and you're protected by that umbrella on the federal level.
I am so aware
So
of that.
basically,
it is
all it
literally
did,
granting people
but it literally allowed the
freedom of
states.
religion.
It allowed the states to pass laws based off their religions. This is why we still have a lot of these crazy, dumb, like off the wall laws, you know, out all sorts of places.
Right,
But,
and like
like,
you said,
on the
there was
state level.
different religions. There was different religions. It wasn't all the same religion that they picked, right? It was different religions.
So
And